Alright, what is going on YouTube? Thanks to a Chinese sponsor, it looks like we will have a Gamer Legion versus White Wolf Palace show match with two pool semi-final settings. This would have been a matchup if Suomi didn't beat Gamer Legion in the quarterfinals of two pools. So now we will actually venture into the theoretical scenario of these two teams fighting against each other. You see that the Civilization draft is actually a two-pool Civ draft as well. We'll have pool 1 for Gamer Legion being Franks, Vikings, Portuguese, Japanese, Malay, Celts, Indians, and Chinese, Lithuanians, Italians, Mayans, Persians, Berbers, Saracens for White Wolf Plus. And here are the second pools with the purple part. That's something that will look actually quite nicer when we did it live, but we didn't have time to prepare the overlays for this show match. I wasn't able to cast this live, so I had to do it from recorded games, and because of that, currently we don't have the overlays available for this, so you're just gonna have to settle with this one. Game Legion banning Sicilians, as they did for the tournament performance as well. They just don't like to have that given to them, I assume, so that's why they decided to ban Sicilians. So, with that in mind, this is going to be a best of 7 in between these two teams. Once again, $1,000 on the line thanks to a Chinese sponsor. I would like to highlight that this is not me hosting this one. So, this is hosted independently from me, but it's going to use two post settings. So, I take no credit for hosting this. I'm just casting the games of this show match. So, let's jump into game number 1 over here. This is going to be Arabia. As I said, this would have been the scenario of the semifinals if Suomi didn't beat Gamer Legion, but they did, so we never got to see White Wolf Palace versus Gamer Legion A. We will have Viper and TaToH on the south as red Vietnamese and the yellow Franks, which is a very, very nice combination of civilizations. In fact, it's a top tier combination of civilizations. Vietnamese was the second post civilization, but it's honestly an A tier archer civilization. So, in fact, the fact that you know where your opponent's starting TC is allows you to go for potential laming strategies. So, Vietnamese is a very, very good second post civilization, as Lyx comes forward early with the scout, steals 2 sheep, actually make it free from the Viper. On the north, we'll have Mr.Yo as blue Mayans, and Lyx will be playing green Teutons in this one. Boar already comes in here for Viper. This is a very, very fast boar, if you notice this. He has lured this boar in before adding any wheels on wood, so he probably wants to squeeze out a super fast feudal age here. Obviously, he will need that because he lost 3 sheep over here, and Lyx could steal 2 more from Viper. Oh my goodness, that's a disaster start for a snake. What is he even up to? He is chopping a straggler tree, so this is definitely an awkward way to start things. It looks like he will just... I see. One of his wheels is very, very low HP, and that is why he's not going to use this wheel to go out for lumberjacking, but he still needs a wheel on wood, so he's using it on the straggler tree here. Viper did do some scouting around the base of Lyx here, but wasn't able to get any damage done. Lyx free on wood, no surprise about that with Teutons. He's going to be the one playing with the cavalry, and that feels like it was an almost disastrous border here from Lyx. Now he's going to be able to bring in that rhino. The rhinos attack faster, but they also hold more food than boars. So it's a little bit more dangerous to lure them in, but there is bigger benefit in doing so. And it looks like Yo and WLYX will do something that the Suomi players did very, very frequently. Team up their scouts. This is something that they did against Viper in the quarterfinals. And Viper lost at least 1 wheel to this. But then he lost like 2 more wheels in very, very early game. One of the reasons why... Gamer Legion had a rough time. It looks like TaToH's gonna have a rough time here as well, because he actually is out of food close to his TC. He's missing the sheep here, and now Lyx comes in here for the lame. White Wolf Palace is out for blood here. They really want to show that they belong in the top teams in 2v2. Obviously for White Wolf Plus it probably was a little bit disappointing for them to lose in the semifinals, because I'm fairly certain that they were eyeing the grand finals. But Suomi surprised everyone, defeating Gamer Legion and White Wolf Palace as well. Gamer Legion in the quarterfinals and White Wolf Palace in the semifinals. So both teams lost to Suomi, but in this specific game so far, White Wolf Palace has a massive lead. Viper has lost 5 sheep overall compared to his opponent, and TaToH was very heavily delayed with his boar. He also lost some sheep. He's housed for a long time, so take a look at TaToH's idle TC time. Where is that? TaToH already has 50 seconds idle time on his TC. That's -2 wheels. Look at this. TaToH's at 14 wheels. This is an absolute disaster start for Gamer Legion here. So I am really unsure what Viper and TaToH can squeeze out of this one, but honestly at this point, Yo and Lyx just need to make sure they don't make any critical mistakes, and they should have a massive lead. Look at that. Lyx is still sitting on 7 sheep, because some of that is from Viper. It looks like Viper might be able to at least take 1 sheep away, take 2 away, and he's got the scout HP advantage, so Viper will eventually be able to reclaim those sheep, but it's a little too late now for him, because by the time those sheep get back to his base, those will be very insignificant. And you see Viper, he is just unable to click up right now. Like, he's gonna have to send all these wheels to straggler trees that he's barely able to squeeze out what is basically a 21 pop scout's timing, but his food eco is an absolute disaster. For him, it's going to help quite a bit that he's gonna have the free horse color upgrade, so he will not have to invest into that one, but still, this is an awful start for Viper. He didn't send out a single wheel for deer, and he also didn't push in any of them, which is a bit of a surprise. Usually, when you lose sheep like that, you push in some deer. Lyx still stole 2 sheep from Viper, so after all, Viper was down 4 or 5 sheep in this entire game, and that is going to cripple his start. Other side, TaToH's start was crippled by the significant amount of T-side all time because he was housed. Viper is actually going to play scouts, whereas TaToH looks like he's going for a drosh. Hasn't clicked up just yet, as he once again is housed, I believe. TaToH is having some problems in this game with the houses so far. On the other hand, Yo is not really walled. He did some walling at the back of his base, and he's placing his barracks to an interesting position. This is not necessarily where you want to place it. You probably want it somewhere around over here, because this is the part that you want to wall early, and it's a mistake from Mr.Yo that this part is still open. Because you always want to wall the front of your base first, because that's where the opponents will come from, and that could be 1 wheel down for Mr.Yo. TaToH redeems himself after a bad start and picks off a wheel from Yo, also idles all the berries, and now he's going to use the hill and attack that mill down hills. That's a very nice start overall for TaToH here for this drush, kind of compensating for his otherwise disastrous start of the game. Now this Eagle will try to take a fight against this wheel. The wheel does have looms, so the Eagle shouldn't be able to take this down, and indeed Yo will disengage for the time being. And it looks like you see that Yo is gonna have to rush that archer range up here close to the TC. Ideally it would be over here, but he just doesn't have the map control there to get there. So we got Spearman even out for Lyx here to try and prevent Viper's early scouts from overrunning him, because he's also not really walled. He's gonna have an almost perfect square-shaped base, if you take a look at the minimap, as he's going to open scouts, no surprise about that one. Viper is also playing half open. He did push in some deer, and I think he's back on track food eco-wise. He's adding farms. It wasn't ideal, but now he is starting to be alright. Now the question is if Yo can actually keep that mill alive, because that's a very important building. You don't want to lose that mill, because then you have to rebuild it on the berries, you have to rebuild it to get farm upgrades, so you will try everything that you can to prevent that mill from going down. Yo already has an archer out, and I think he will be able to keep this one alive, although I would think that Viper is gonna bring in his scouts, and since there is no defensive spearman from Mr.Yo, those archers could go down to the scouts, so this is still a tough one for Mr.Yo here to fight. He's gonna have to make sure he doesn't lose that mill, but he also can't sacrifice his archers. TaToH is going to be fully walled, so will Lyx be. Yo is close to being fully walled, whereas Viper is playing pretty much open in this one, which is quite dangerous, but right now they are trying to make sure that they just force engagements close to Yo's base, and Lyx will be forced to go there and defend. Also, Viper's scouts are stronger than Lyx's scouts, because Lyx has standard Teuton scouts, whereas the opponent, Viper, has Frankish scouts with a little bit more HP. Franks and Teutons both have insanely good food eco with the farms. Obviously, Franks getting the horse color upgrade cheaper, but I think, well, not cheaper, but they actually get it for free. But the idea is that the Frankish bonus is something that helps a lot in early feudal age, whereas the Teuton bonus helps more and more as you progress deeper into the game. So the cheaper farming bonus now actually starts mattering quite a bit here for Lyx, because he's gonna be able to add a lot more farming eco than a Viper. We will have Wheelbarrow coming in right now for Lyx, and you can tell that even though Viper has approximately the same amount of wheels on food as Lyx does, Lyx has a much better food eco, and he's getting close to clicking up to Castle Age with that food count. Part of that comes from the fact that, as I said, the Viper had a very rough start here food eco-wise, and that shows in his current food count. Feudal Age on the way for TaToH just now. This is a 30 wheel up, which is super late if you consider that he also had a lot of idle time. So this is like a 33 wheel equivalent timing. So that's a very late Feudal Age over here. This is definitely a Drosh FC from TaToH. You see that he is already piling up the resource to go into Castle Age, but this is very dangerous given the fact that he's completely undefended. In fact, the Chinese team is already able to force a defensive tower, and TaToH is going to lose his gold mine. This may have been an overly ambitious Drosh fast castle, because as things stand, TaToH is going to pay for that one really heavily. He will eventually be able to get up to Castle Age, but I wonder how good his eco is going to be to make up for that. Like, at this point, as this will is derping out here a little bit, at this point, TaToH is... TaToH lost 3 wills in this game already, and he also has 125 idle time on his TC, which is like 3 wills as well. So technically, he's gonna be down 6 wills when he reaches Castle Age. In fact, if you take a look at Lyx, he's going up at 32 wheels, but Lyx also has Wheelbarrow, which accounts for 3, and if Lyx didn't have a hole here, then Game Legion wouldn't be in big trouble. But Lyx does have a hole, he's gonna have to quick wall. The good news for Lyx is that there is no archers to back this one up, which means that against the scouts you can quick wall, although the Drush actually hits the wood line, and as big of a disaster it was for TaToH to lose those wheels early on and sort of to just get delayed so heavily in Dark Age, Game Legion is doing a very nice job redeeming itself with their forces. They get way more value for their armies than White Wolf Palace is doing, and currently I feel like it's a little bit too ambitious from Lyx running out here. What is Lyx doing, man? Lyx is throwing away this game. He just ran out there with a bunch of wills, and now he's going to lose 2 more here, make it even 3 potentially. Lyx coming back here with his scouts, still no upgrades on those, no bloodlines whatsoever. He's gonna have to take a premature fight here, but Lyx now lost 6 wills in this game, make it 7. That is an absolute disaster for Lyx. 7 wills lost, make it 9 even. He's down by 9 wills. That is just crazy, and that's going to be villager number 10 being picked off here. Viper, as I said, he's got a disaster start, but he's redeeming himself so nicely here with those scouts, and really, that hole over there for Lyx hurts so much. Once we actually get to the end of the game, we'll rewind to see if that was actually a hole or just Lyx didn't notice that Viper broke into his base. Now, keep in mind that TaToH was also suffering from a lot of pressure while we weren't looking. In fact, you could see dead bodies lying around, and TaToH is also down. Oh, wait a second, that's just the overall KD. I'm PaTaToH, sorry for that. Here's the real KD. Okay, now it looks a little bit better. So let's talk about this one instead. I apologize, this is the first game I'm casting today, so I'm a little bit rusty here. TaToH's eco is an absolute mess. As you see, he's got 0 farming eco. So, try number 2, as Lyx loses another wheel here to those scouts. Finally, he's got knights out on the field. TaToH and Lyx both suffered from insane pressure. Lyx lost 7 wheels in this game, TaToH lost 6, but he has a lot more idle time. So basically, both of these players have a pretty bad eco overall. The good news for Game Legion is that TaToH is still sort of alive and now holding against Yo, and more importantly, Viper is able to go for a free TC play, whereas Mr.Yo is just now going up to Castle Age, which means that his eco is gonna be weaker than Viper's eco. The archers in general are more important than the knights are in 2v2s in the current meta. However, it is still better to have the cavalry player fully boomed compared to the archer player, because the cavalry player can decide which engagement to take and which not to take, thanks to its mobility. So, if your cavalry player is fully boomed compared to the opponent's archer player fully boomed, that's better for the team where the cavalry player has a good boom. So, Viper with free TCs is a nice advantage over here for Gamer Legion. TaToH is trying to squeeze out a couple of crossbows over here as he's trying to rebuild his farming eco. Still, he's very, very far away from being a factor in this one. On the other hand, Lyx has 9 knights at least, so theoretically Lyx is able to influence the game a little bit better than TaToH is. TaToH's got 11 crossbows and a very, very wacky eco, whereas for Lyx, he's actually going for a monastery, and it looks like he just wants to play a flat-out 1v1 versus Viper. He understands that TaToH is pretty much cornered within his own base as he loses another Will here on the wood line, make it even 2. So right now, Yo is ahead of TaToH quite a bit, and the idea for Lyx is that he's going to add monks here and try to play a 1v1 versus Viper. Because 2-turn knights are harder to convert, so Viper can't really defend with monks, and also if Lyx converts a knight, it's gonna be pretty much impossible for Viper to convert that knight back unless Lyx masses something up. Plus, 2-turn knights also have 1 extra melee armor, which matters quite a lot in a knight versus knight fight. Lyx also has +1 attack on those knights, so Lyx is sort of going for an all-in strategy, but in reality, what this is basically is Lyx trying to delay Viper here as much as possible to allow Yo to have a free boom. Because that's exactly what is happening right now. TaToH is half dead currently, so Lyx understands that the idea is that he needs to push Viper as much as possible in an effort to delay him and allow Yo to finish off the game with Arbalasts once he gets there. For now, Lyx is going to take fights close to the TC fire, but you can see that he's already causing a lot of damage to Viper's eco. He's forcing a lot of quick walls on the wood lines, which will fail apparently here for the Snake. A lot of idle time on the farming eco, and this is exactly what Lyx wants to accomplish. So overall ecos are very, very close, and that is a big, big thing for White Wolf Palace, that technically have way less TCs, so only 2 TCs for Yo and Lyx is on 1, just like TaToH. So Viper 3 TCs, Yo was only on 2, and they still have the even villager count. That is sort of a win for White Wolf Palace. Now, I don't like that Lyx is trickling in his cavalry 1 by 1, because they kind of get picked off by these crossbows. On the other hand, TaToH doesn't really have a huge amount of crossbows here, and he's also missing ballistics on those, whereas Yo has 23 crossbows with ballistics chasing them down, and now they will be focusing on Viper. TaToH is about to lose his entire army here, and as I said, the key thing is that Yo is completely untouched, and that just fits the playstyle of White Wolf Palace so well. Once again, Lyx is just delaying potentially 2 players, and Yo is just snowballing the game in late game as he was untouched. Viper's goldmine here is potentially exposed for massive amounts of villagers killed. Viper reacts in time, or is he? Yes, he does. He still loses 1 will here, but more importantly, his goldmine is idled right now. He's gonna have to fall back to this backup goldmine, which seems to be safe for the time being. Still, idle will count is a massive problem right now for Viper. Viper is probably massing a big horde of knights so he can take a decisive engagement, but he might lose another will here on that stable. And look at this. Here comes the crossbows from Yo as well, directing another group of crossbows to hit TaToH's wood line. TaToH apparently is going to lose a couple more wills here. So, indeed, there is 2, 3, 4 wills going down for TaToH. Surgical precision right now from Mr.Yo over there. And if you compare the 2 players, well, Lyx and TaToH are still pretty bad in eco, 39 and 36 wills each. However, Viper just lost one of his stables and he hasn't finished the other one, so Viper's production is very, very limited right now. And most importantly, look at Yo's resources. Yo is about to click into Imperial. When is Viper going to click into Imp? Probably never, because as things stand, he's just nowhere close to clicking into Imperial, and he's trying to defend with monks as best as he can, but it's just not possible against Teuton Knights. It is just so hard to convert them, and indeed, Yo clicks into Imperial. He's going to dive in once again and might pick off a couple more wills on the wood line of TaToH, as TaToH is going to be distracted fighting this one. As things stand, Yo probably wants to avoid losing his crossbow numbers now because he wants Arbalasts, but he still dives in, picks off 2 wills. TaToH has lost 17 wills in this game. Lyx lost 7 initially, but ever since then, he wasn't under additional pressure, and that's a big difference. TaToH also lost a lot of early wills, but he was constantly under pressure, and Lyx hasn't been pressured ever since that hole has happened inside his base. Also, cheaper Teuton farms help quite a bit, establishing your food eco, so you don't need that many wills on wood. which helps quite a bit when you have a limited amount of eco to work with. TaToH is actually getting nice crossbow numbers up. He's up to 31, has ballistics as well, and he's got the extra HP thanks to Vietnamese. But in 1.5 minutes, Yo is gonna be in Imperial, and I feel like if he gets to Imperial, one thing that he could do is potentially drop a castle in the face of TaToH and start trapping buildings down, and I think that's what he's thinking. He's at 600 stone right now, so it's very possible that we will see another castle, well, not another castle, but a first castle being dropped here by Yo. It looks like Game Legion will dive in though. Monks coming in here, and they will get one conversion on the cavalry of Viper here. Nice fight over here for Game Legion as the reinforcements coming from Mr.Yo. Yo really needs those crossbows to be upgraded to Arbs before he wants to take this fight, but now he has Stumbling, and indeed Game Legion disengages. This wasn't an amazing engagement for Mr.Yo and WLYX, but it was good enough to hold off GL until Yo is going to be able to grab his upgrades. Ecos are still very, very close, and GL will have to fight this one right here, right now, because they have no tools of engaging Arbalests once they are upgraded. And that's something that TaToH and Viper know really well. So, as things stand, you are just waiting for Bracer, Chemistry, and Arbalest to hit. Especially Chemistry is something that can wait. But once Bracer and Arbalest are in, you can start taking this engagement. And that's going to be very, very tough for TaToH to fight. You also got +2 defense for Mr.Yo here, only +1 defense for TaToH. He's just finishing Tumbling, but I feel like this is the moment where Game Legion's army could completely evaporate, because now those Arbalests are just melting knights, and indeed, Viper and TaToH know exactly that this is the end here, especially with Yo also dropping a castle in TaToH's face. I want to scroll back a little bit to that hole at the base of WLYX, because I'm really curious what happened there. It's gonna be a little bit more ahead. It's gonna be around here. Oh, WLYX. This wasn't the hole that the GL made. This was wide open, and look at TaToH. Look at the ping right now. TaToH spotted this hole and told Viper, hey, come here with your scouts, because this is open. And this is exactly what TaToH also did with his militias. Look at the patience from GL. TaToH won't dive in with his militias and say, hey, I'm going to attack my opponent and try to get early value. He was patient. He was very, very patient, waiting for Viper's scouts to arrive. Because when those scouts arrive, they can do a lot more damage than just with free militias. So, while TaToH was distracted though, he also lost 2 wheels here on this building. And as I mentioned, he will lose a couple more trying to rewall here. He's going to add stone walls behind here. But as TaToH's gonna be distracted here, fighting with the militias, as now WLYX spots this one, but this is too late now. Viper arrives with scouts. And one more thing that we wanted to look at, as I said, is that now WLYX starts losing wheels here because there's a hole on the wood line, and he's also going to try and quick wall around here. These are nice quick walls, but many wheels on the farms, on the berries, on the wood line went down. The only problem for TaToH here was that while he was doing this, he's gonna get pushed in here, and he will actually lose a will, and those archers will even break into his base. So, despite the big damage done here by Game Legion inside WLYX's base, TaToH is also going to suffer from a lot of damage. You see, this is something that we weren't able to see because we were looking at WLYX's base, but thanks to the wonders of Capture Age and the Rewind ability, we will now see how TaToH lost 2 more wills here, and these archers also broke into his base. And that's the end of game number 1. Let's take a quick look at the civilizations. Vietnamese, the second post civilization, gone for Game Legion alongside Franks. So their last second pool civ and their first pool civilization will be gone. Other side, White Wolf Palace will lose Mayans. They actually prioritize the Archer civ in their pool 1, and they will lose Teutons, which was their cavalry civilization. We will go to the first home map of Gamer Legion over here, which is a rock slide. So this is one of those maps which wasn't extensively played in the main event of 2 pools. We saw a couple of games, but not a huge amount of them, which actually disappointed me a lot because this map has a lot of potential. This map is something that was originally designed for Red Bull World Law 3 in an Empire War setting. On Rock Slide, you sort of start sheltered around with a forest, and you also start with a mill and surrounded by shallows. All the gold is on the outside though, so this is something that you will have to move out to quite early on. So we will have on the right side of the map Viper and the TaToH as red Vikings for TaToH and yellow Gods for Viper. We will have Koreans for Mr.Yo in blue and Saracens for GL in green. This is one of those maps where you don't have to have the traditional archer plus cavalry civilization roles. You can have a civilization that goes for water. For example, Vikings will be able to do that very nicely. Same thing for Saracens with galleys, but also Koreans could do something like that in this one. Now, one thing to consider is that most of the stone is on the outside. We'll talk about that in a moment as we have a scout scaffold. This is not something that Viper can win unless he takes that hill, and he does, so Yo disengages. So basically all the stone is out here, surrounded by wood. The only chance for you to grab stone here is to chop through this layer of wood and then start mining it, which means that early on you won't be able to grab war wagons or huskars for the Gothic player. So war wagons are not an option for the Koreans here. No huskars early on for Viper, and also no berserks for TaToH until they get there. This map, however, often goes very, very late. So this is one of those maps where post-Imperial scenarios are actually pretty frequent. You could see that TaToH actually brings in a scout to take away 2 sheep from GL over here. GL already has a will here on berries. That's just because he's now down 2 goats, or well, in this case, geese. And this is something that he will try to use to make up for that. The boars are actually very, very close to your town center, so it's quite impossible to lame them. It's really an easy border for the players. So, for now, it looks like TaToH is going to send 4 on wood, as he's going to start rolling off the outside rim over here. Viper only has 3 on wood, so this is very possible to be like a super aggressive... It technically is possible that he tries to go for a more unique, either Drush build or Man-at-Arms build. Keep in mind that you already have a mill, which means that you don't have to send as many wheels on wood as you would normally have to. So 3 on wood for a Man-at-Arms play might be sufficient here, with the fact that you don't have to drop a mill. So as things stand, TaToH looks like he's actually sending out wheels here to the gold mine, which to me seems like it's going to be an early drush from TaToH. On the north, we will have Viper also going for a drush, so double drushes here from our GL players. Other side, it looks like GL is just playing very standard, probably fast feudal into galleys. And the main question is what Yo is up to. Yo is not having a single wheels on berries, which is a bit of a surprise. He's 5 on wood, so to me it feels like he might also go for a water fight here. Right now Viper is just chasing GL's scout, but eventually will give up on that as TaToH grabs the 2 geese that he stole from GL previously. He will be able to get them back home, and now the drush arrives here for our Viking player. Vikings do not get the extra HP on their militias in Dark Age, so that's a bonus that doesn't apply in Dark Age. It only starts affecting their infantry starting Feudal Age, so they don't have any extra HP here in Dark Age, and this is why Yo is so heavy on wood. It looks like he's actually adding a fishing ship. Now, this water only has shorefish here, but it looks like Yo find a spot where there is 2 shorefish right next to each other, and he's adding fish. Normally adding fishing ships here isn't really efficient, but the idea for Yo could be that he wants to continue with galleys, and in that case he would die the dock anyways. Viper is going to see that something is wrong, because there is no wheels on the berries, but he didn't see the dock, so that's going to come as a surprise for him. On the other hand, it looks like TaToH will bring a forward wheel and will do what usually gods do, but he's the Vikings player. Still, he will go and lame the easiest to access gold mine from GL here. GL is going to be evolved in the berries, so this drush shouldn't accomplish that much. GL is going for some contingency walls to prevent those militias from running past. And Viper is going to do the exact same thing. He's going to send the wheel forward and lame the gold away from the opponent. It's the exact same mirror strategies here for Viper and TaToH, as now they find the dock and they should have no trouble taking down these fishing ships. And more importantly, If Yo moves out for that gold mine, the militias can chase those villas down, and this could be quite troublesome for Mr.Yo. Viper trying to block that vill here with this scout as the militias are beating up the lady, and that could be the first villager casualty from Mr.Yo. Now the militias are coming in against the fishing ships, as on the other side, TaToH is kind of just knocking down that mill, not really doing that much other than that. Viper is successful aiming one of the gold mines, but the other one is still accessible here for Mr.Yo, as it looks like Viper could easily take this fight here or not, because Yo already has a feudal age scout, and he will track down the scout of Viper, beautifully done by Yo. He knew exactly that he has just enough HP to snipe down Viper's scout and then run away. Lyx will be forced to repair his mill over here, as he's going up to feudal age. His resources aren't looking bad, honestly, so with the Saracen market, it's actually possible that Lyx could go for sort of a fast castle-ish play. I don't think that +2 wheels will be enough, but Lyx doesn't have to get a huge amount of resource to click up into Castle Age, so it's very possible that we'll just use Saracen market usage. Now, I wouldn't actually be a big fan of selling your stone here, because as I said, you can't access more stone until you chop through this layer of wood, so selling stone here for Saracens might not be the best of all ideas, but I guess Lyx is thinking about that one, because he's not really having other resources available to sell. Viper's militias are still running around trying to get kills on those fishing ships. Archer is out for Yo, supported by fire galleys, so Yo will most likely do a dual push here. Go for fire galleys to control water, but also adds a couple of archers to push away Viper from this gold mine. Lyx found another gold mine on the south, something that apparently TaToH wasn't able to find or lay, as he's trying to quick wall that vill around to prevent the bear from beating it up. Now Viper's vills here will be exposed to Mr.Yo's galley, and that could be another dead vill here from the Viper, especially if the archers come in here to finish that lady off, and they could definitely do that. Viper has to leave the house here to save this vill, or maybe walk around if the fire galley is not paying attention. It looks like TaToH's gold mine here will be found by Lyx, and the Viper even upgrades to men-at-arms here, which is an interesting decision. He invested into 4 of those militias and they were in good condition, but he's up against multiple archers, so I feel like those men-at-arms will not really do much, and that might be a bad investment overall. And now it looks like Lyx also brought a vill here. This is not a fight that Lyx wants to take. This is a feudal age scout from TaToH, and TaToH will pick off a vill here from Lyx. Not sure why Lyx actually went there. Maybe he saw... I have no idea, honestly, why Lyx sent a vill there. Maybe he spotted TaToH's vill and wanted to send one to clean it up, but he wasn't expecting the scout. Regardless, that was awkward, as TaToH is going to get a 4th archer range up here, something that Lyx is going to have 0 answer to. Lyx, on the other hand, is going up to Castle Age. But the main question for Lyx, what is he doing in Castle Age? He sold all his stone, so he won't be adding additional town centers unless he buys it back. Yeah, I kind of feel like, oh, this is what he's doing. He's spotted TaToH's gold mine, and he's gonna go for knights here, which I think is the better choice here. You want a power unit in Castle Age, something that you can use to immediately do a lot of damage, and knights are that type of a unit. He can also send 1 knight back to clean up those archers if he needs to. It looks like Viper is going for a couple of galleys here, but the fire galleys of Yo will be able to destroy that. Viper, on the other hand, mixing in skirmishers to deal with the archers that are coming out from our blue player. TaToH will find the villagers of Lyx here, and that could be very troublesome for Lyx, because I think that Lyx is potentially pulling these for a forward siege workshop, maybe even a forward TC somewhere around over here where TaToH wouldn't expect gold mining, or he was just expecting the archers and he's trying to pull those vills so he can get an alternative gold mine. Lyx not reacting to these archers just yet, as TaToH is also on the way to Castle Age. He didn't sell a single bit of his stone, so that's just Viking's eco, and it looks like Lyx is just not reacting to this one. It's not like he can do anything here. Archers will just pick those vills off. Best thing he can do is run, but there is a scout here as well. I feel like that's -4 vills there for Lyx. He's gonna have to make up for that with the knights. TaToH will now spot that there is knights coming his way, and it looks like Lyx is gonna have to send those knights back to defend against those archers, because as things stand, he's going to keep losing vills here. On the north, we do have a bit of a scuffle between Viper and Yo, but not a huge amount. The most intense fights are happening on the southern part of the map. So, it looks like Mr.Yo could be losing a will here, although skirms fire first, and that means that Yo has time to react. That's quite a lot of archers over here for Mr.Yo, who is piling up resources to pick up to Castle Age. Viper also getting closer. For now, this is not a fight that Yo wants to take, because he's up against skirmishers. On the other hand, we will have Wills coming out for Lyx. This time he's going for this gold mine, but TaToH will spot this. TaToH sees the Wills passing by this house, so it's very possible that TaToH will just send the Wills here, or the archers here, and kill the Wills. We will have Mangonels now coming in for Lyx here to push away TaToH from his gold mine. We will set a galley here from Yo trying to push that, but that didn't really happen. As things stand, Gamer Legion has a much stronger eco, 33 wills for TaToH and only 24 for Lyx. Lyx's eco is super weak here, although we really know that that's not really a big deal for Lyx. Lyx was never famous about having a crazy eco. He was about very low eco but super aggressive playstyle. Yo, it looks like he will now commit to this fight as he's trying to finish off his market so he can click up as well. He's gonna be the last player going into Castle Age here as Viper already clicked up. And now TaToH will just try to hold that gold mine with defensive tower. Mangonel is out for Lyx and he's bringing a second Mangonel. Viper actually delayed his eco upgrades until clicking up to Castle Age so he can click up a little bit faster. Castle Age on the way for Mr.Yo as well. Viper, by the way, did quite a lot of laming on these gold mines. He actually lamed 3 total gold mines from Mr.Yo. Still, after all, Yo's army convinces me a little bit more here. With the crossbows, Viper is massing skirmishers, but I feel like if Lyx just sends over a couple of knights, that could be very nice. Whereas if you take a look at on the other side, TaToH is almost exclusively spearmen. So while Lyx can help out Mr.Yo's push with a couple of knights to deal with the skirms, TaToH won't be able to help out Viper's defense because TaToH is basically just pikemen. Or not even pikemen, it's just spearmen. Here come the spears though, and you need to get some good ground attacks in to be able to defeat this horde, because that's quite a lot of spearmen. Those are Viking spearmen with 52 HP. Villager coming in here to repair. Monks actually get a couple of conversions as the Mangonel takes down one of the monks. The other monk actually jukes the shots, and the TaToH will actually take down 2 Mangonels here with the spearmen, I believe, because I just don't see how Lyx is actually stopping this one. Like, Lyx is trying to repair this one as much as possible, but the Viking spearmen prove to be a worthy opponent and take down 2 Mangonels. Viper adding a TC here on the outside. He wants to go for that stone. He's the only player with a TC out here. A lumber camp is out here as well for Yo though, so it's very possible that Yo will be able to drop a TC there as well. TaToH also sent a couple of archers inside the base of Lyx here, so Lyx has to relocate his wood line. Lyx still at 25 eco only. That's a very weak eco. And it's not like his push is really materializing, so he isn't really doing that much of a damage to TaToH. TaToH is doing a nice job absorbing damage here, and Viper will be the only player that's gonna be booming on free TCs, and with pikemen in for TaToH, it's very unlikely that Lyx's push here will accomplish a lot. TaToH could also try to sneak out to this side and try to get a TC up here, but I think he's just focused on defending. So we will have Viper's dog being lost over here. He overall lost the water to the fire galleys and the galley. He still has a defensive tower on his gold mine though, and he went for the elite skirm upgrade. So Yo either needs to mix in some knights or he needs a siege workshop. He decides by knights, especially now that Lyx is too busy fighting the other side. So we will have some more archers coming in here for TaToH. They're looking for wills to kill, but really Lyx has nothing to kill here. He's 1 TC, 26 wills. The real threat could be Mr.Yo, but is he an actual threat? He's got a couple of knights out with the limited upgrades, only +1 defense, no bloodlines. He's got a couple of skirmish or crossbows out, but Viper has skirms here. Viper is on 3 TCs. I just don't think that Yo is that big of a factor right now, and I think that Viper could easily get away with a huge boom here, because it really doesn't seem like it's gonna go punished. And if he's able to start accessing stone, which he is right now, then he will start progressing towards the ultimate gothic death blob. And on this map, that's very, very hard to stop because this outside is impossible to wall off completely. So as we have TaToH coming in here with a converted knight diving in to deal with the scorpions. He fails to take down the scorpion, although the pikeman might be able to finish it off, and indeed, here goes one of the pikemen. I think the big deal here for TaToH is not winning these fights, as here comes another knight from TaToH. In fact, TaToH made a stable to get a couple of knights out and deal with the scorpions. So at this point, all TaToH wants to accomplish, as he will have to delete this knight to avoid getting converted. It looks like he will commit to this, but he just ends up losing that knight. He should have deleted that knight, I believe. So at this point, what TaToH has to build on is that he is Vikings, he's at 43 vills, his opponent is at 28. Lyx is barely making any vills, and now you already have a second TC coming up for TaToH. So that's gonna allow him to outboom Lyx by a massive margin, and Viper is also outbooming Mr.Yo quite heavily here. Yo is on 3 TCs now as well, but he's behind by 12 vills. Viper having quite a lot of housing issues right now, so he's gonna have to rush up a couple more houses. And a turtle ship. In fact, what is this even? It's a converted turtle ship, because Yo went for a turtle ship here on this pond. Viper used the monk to convert it. So when I looked at Koreans on this map, I was like, maybe turtle ships could be a thing here, but I was like then, it won't be a thing, because why would you ever go for a turtle ship on this map? But it looks like the players think otherwise, as TaToH also broke into the base of Lyx here. Lyx also had a hole here. This is something I was looking at when he made the market, but I didn't think it's gonna be important. It looks like it was important because TaToH broke in here to the base of Lyx. Lyx is still at 29 vills, TaToH is now at 47. Big scuffle coming in here on the south. Quite a lot of Mangonels are in the party, but the best thing that TaToH can hope for with those pikemen is taking down knights, especially with monks healing from the back. This could be a scary push, to be honest, because that's 3 Mangonels, and the tower is almost dead already. So this could be something that pushes TaToH off from this position. Still, TaToH is already relocating his base, so it's gonna be a little bit challenging for Lyx to track this one, although Yo has a couple of crossbows around that could pick off vills here before they are successful finishing the TCs. 2 conversions here for Viper on the knights, but he's going to lose the monks. Viper, on the other hand, takes down the monk of the opponent, and now he's shooting at the other turtle ship. So, as things stand, he's cleaning up the turtle ship of Mr.Yo. Now, turtle versus turtle, but still, it is going to be Yo's turtle that goes down faster. Viper is really having good conversions here. Converting turtle ships, converting multiple knights helps a lot not to die versus the turtle ship knight combination when he only has skirms. But now he's getting a castle up and he's going immediately for anarchy and well, not perfusion right now, but on the anarchy, he's going for it immediately. Oftentimes, you see Gothic players just boom into Imperial before getting anarchy and then perfusion to flood infantry. This time it looks like Viper wants to flood infantry in Castle Age. He is already up with 3 barracks and he will start sending the Huskars, and honestly, Yo doesn't have a huge amount of defense against this one, and a couple of Huskars on the right side could help quite a bit for TaToH to save that town center, deal with those crossbows and then a Mangonels. It looks like Viper will send those Huskars into the north though. Lyx expanding his eco now, he's at 31 vills only still. Viper the best eco in the game. TaToH is sort of being the punching bag right now, as Lyx is pushing his town center over here. But TaToH is still 4 TCs, he's gonna bring in his own Mangonel to defend against this one and slow this push down from our green player. Lyx reacts in time, splits away from the Mangonel. That's a very, very nice move over there from Lyx. And TaToH is gonna have to settle with a ground attack on the pikeman. But then he's going to potentially lose at least 1 pikeman to a conversion. TaToH now has to relocate his base because he's probably going to lose another TC here. Still, now it's Viper coming in here with the Huskars, and you don't really see the answers from Mr.Yo just yet. He's got a couple of turtle ships, but that's all. He's got 2 knights, 9 crossbows. He won't be able to stop the flood of Huskars unless he goes into Imperial and gets the swordsman out, because Imperial Age swordsman for Koreans might still do the trick here. I don't think that he will be successful doing that in Castle Age, but if he gets to Imp, then that could be something. So Korean infantry actually have champions. They're missing Blast Furnace though. So those are not fully upgraded champions, but they're fairly decent. I don't think longswords are enough for Mr.Yo, but champions might do it. The problem is getting there. It's still 3 minutes for Imperial, and that's going to be a lot of wheels down for Mr.Yo. In fact, that's a huge amount of wheels down with that TC, and they will have nowhere to go. Yo will be successful getting a castle up here to defensive position, but in the meanwhile, he will lose a huge amount of wheels. He's down to 68. Gia has a 60 wheels lead right now, and even though Lyx is finding a nice angle to push this one, he even grabs Redemption for his monks. Lyx has Redemption on those monks, and he converts one Mangonel. He could convert another one, as Lyx used the other Mango to just block the movement of TaToH's remaining Mangonel and prevent the Mangonel from closing distance to the monk. So Lyx actually gets conversions in here, and now he's got an even scarier blob. I have to say that Lyx's push is actually starting to be scary for TaToH, but it's not super scary as things stand, because TaToH is still ahead in eco. Although he's going to now lose a Siege Workshop here to conversions, he's gonna have to do a guard tower defense here. Light Cav is being added, the famous Viking Light Cavalry. The only thing that TaToH can really do against that many monks and Mangonels. Guard towers could also be very, very nice. He's even getting Botkin Arrow. Still, this should be in Viper's hand to snowball the game with Huskars. I could also see a couple of Huskars arriving from Viper to relieve the pressure on TaToH's base, because that could be super helpful here as well. And indeed, Yo decides to go for the Korean champion line, and as things stand, Viper will just send those Huskars towards Lyx's base in an effort to try and push Lyx's eco really heavily here and distract him while TaToH is able to take this fight. TaToH going for guard tower, trying to hold this corner as long as possible. He has lost that Siege Workshop to Lyx here. He didn't delete it before the conversion, so Lyx can reinforce very, very easily. Now it's 5 Mangonels, though, against that guard tower. Not all of them are able to shoot, and TaToH is apparently selecting one that is not being repaired. That's the right thing to do here, but still, this is going to be a tough hold. Now the Light Cav pop out, and Lyx is not paying attention. He's going to lose one Monk. He's going to lose another one. This is a very, very nice hold here for TaToH. He's going to lose one Light Cav to conversion, but still, most of the monks are dead now, and TaToH is still holding this one. More importantly, Viper breaks into the base of Lyx here, and now it is Lyx with basically 0 eco, and we also have to add that Viper is flooding Huskars into the base of Yo here. Viper is going for a full Castle Age play here. Yo is up to Imperial, he's getting 200 swordsmen, but he doesn't have a single swordsman out. It's battering rams and Huskars, full-on Castle Age play here from Gamer Legion, and now Yo and Lyx combined for 99 vills, where Viper alone has 114. Yes, it is Imperial Age from Mr.Yo, but I struggle to see how he could replenish his army numbers here soon, because he's losing ground really rapidly. In fact, Viper is taking to his own champions, although we have to add that Viper is still not going into Imperial. If Viper gets to Imperial, I think this should be their game. Until then, there could be a small chance for White Wolf Palace, but as I'm saying that, they would just tap out. Indeed, Lyx was pretty much dead, 35 eco, and 64 for Yo only. Viper played a masterful Gothic game here. The defense against Mr.Yo was outstanding, and then he transitioned very nicely to a free TC boom, and then the Castle Age, almost like an all-in Castle Age play, although it wasn't a real all-in because he still had a good boom behind it. But he didn't want to go into Imperial, he wanted to just rush down these castles with rams and Huskars, and it worked. It worked to perfection, and with this, Gamer Legion takes game number 2 here. They strike back versus Yo and Lyx. We will have Vikings gone for Gamer Legion alongside Gods. It's interesting that Gods were given as a second post civilization. Obviously, it's hard to select a civilization that is like actually bad, especially when you have to give 7 of them to the opponent. But Gods is definitely a dangerous one to give away, and we have seen that in the tournament itself, that oftentimes Gods being given backfires because Gods can be super dangerous in late Imperial, or as Viper has shown, even in late Castle Age, if they are fully boomed. White Wolf Palace will lose Saracens here, and oops, and they will also lose Koreans. So now we're going to the first home map of White Wolf Palace, which I believe is Team Islands indeed. Yo and Lyx bring us to the water as we will jump into game number 3. Team Islands. A map where Mr.Yo and Lyx are just so dominant because everyone knows what's going to happen, but no one is able to stop it. We can actually do a little bit of a fast forwarding over here because I did mention that we're casting this from recorded games, so we can skip Dark Age, which is definitely a benefit of recorded games here. So Lyx and Yo will be on the left side in green and blue. Yo is playing Malians, and Yo is playing Italians, and Lyx is the Malian player in green. Malians is not a civ I love, even though we know that it's gonna be a landing from Lyx. I don't love it for islands, because if the landing fails, you're gonna have to go for Galleons and they miss Bracers, so it hurts quite badly overall. Viper and TaToH will be on the right side. Viper is playing Portuguese in yellow, and TaToH will be playing Turks in red. That's a combination I like a little bit better here. Especially because Turks do have Bracer for their Galleons, so that's actually very nice. Theoretically, we have the chance to see fully upgraded Elite Cannon Galleon, although that still seems unlikely. Here's the transport ship coming in here for Lyx, as everyone would expect. Like, this is one of the most ridiculous things in competitive Age of Empires nowadays, I believe. Everyone knows that this is happening, yet no one figured out how to defeat Yo and Lyx on Team Islands in such a 2v2 setting, because Lyx is being so disruptive with the landing that it's just so hard to make up for all the damage that he's doing. TaToH actually going for some big walls here, but what is going to prevent Lyx from just transporting his wheels around? I have no idea. TaToH going up to Feudal, and it looks like TaToH might be going for a landing defense here, because he's not making a transport himself, yet he's also not adding an additional dock, and as I said, this transport will just sail past these walls. TaToH will spot this. TaToH knows exactly it is coming, as Lyx is also walling, so they're preparing for a counter landing. Lyx will have to drop a barracks first, which buys some time for TaToH to react. As now the transport is gonna drop off the wheels. TaToH once again tracking these, and it looks like Lyx will actually dive in right away on that wheel. The wheel will take the hill fight here. TaToH knows exactly that he's got his scout close by, but that's only a Dark Age scout, so the fight won't be that good for our red player. And look at TaToH. Look at TaToH. He's trying to trap that group of wheels in there, and indeed only one of the wheels will be staying here for the barracks. The other one will relocate. Viper is also bringing in his scout in this one. As I mentioned, Lyx is just being so disruptive. Lyx knows exactly that, hey, even if that barracks is going to be walled in, like the way that TaToH is doing, and this wheel is lost, I'm just gonna land somewhere else. And this is just... there's just no time for Viper and TaToH to react to this one. I don't like that Lyx is actually showing his scout here, because this tells Viper and TaToH that Lyx has landed over here. So TaToH could once again bring wheels to wall this one in. As Lyx will lose his starting scout, we will have a galley opening here for Mr.Yo, despite the fact that he's going for front docks. And the idea is that he's heading towards TaToH. Look at this. They know exactly that Viper is on the right and TaToH is on the left. So what are they doing? As TaToH could be losing a wheel here to a spearman. They know that TaToH is on the left and he is defending. So they will send galleys to TaToH's base, because that will guarantee kills on the fishing eco. If they actually sent this to Viper, they would have to fight on water. Instead, what they want is to kill the unprotected fishing ships, and that's exactly what's gonna happen. The stable is up, and now the scouts are coming in. This is a nice move from GL, though. This is a very nice move. Viper brings over a galley to try and pick off the wheel that's walled around, and now TaToH's fire galley jumps on this one, but still, look at Lyx. He knows exactly, he just needs to run away from this one, and now he's tracking it with a scout. Quick walls for Lyx. What a clutch quick wall, or is it? It's not a clutch quick wall from Lyx, and this could be an extremely important factor in this game. Losing that wheel, both of those archer ranges being denied means that it's very hard to get through those walls, although the wheel is doing everything he can to keep that gate open. This should be enough for TaToH to hold this gate. The fishing eco for TaToH is now officially gone, but this is looking pretty good for Gamer Legion. And one thing to consider is that while Mr.Yo and Lyx are excellent on Team Islands with this strategy, Viper and TaToH are some of the best water players out there, so they definitely have their moments as well on water here, as Yo is slowly walling himself up. It looks like Yo will send all his galleys now with fletching towards Viper's fishing econ. Viper's unprotected back at home. Viper actually went for a very, very heavy fish boom here. 6 fishing ships as opposed to only 3 from Yo. So that is something that's going to give a nice little advantage for Viper over there. And look at Viper as well. He brings in the galley to the other wheel, so this other wheel will also go down. Make no mistake, Lyx will make a new transport and transport you 2 more wheels. He is just so resilient with the landing. He never gives up, and that's something that very, very few people do when they land. Oftentimes, when a landing fails, you just bail out on it and you try to do something else. But not Lyx. He's like, okay, whatever, I'm gonna do it. And look at that, he just jukes the galleys of Viper. Viper will also do the exact same thing that Yo did to TaToH, send in a couple of galleys to push Lyx's unprotected fishing eco. But what's more important is that Yo will be able to find the fishing eco of Viper here. He's not even caring about those galleys. He's just taking down those fishing ships. Now, Viper now has 4 galleys in here. Yo has 6, but there is slightly higher HP on those Portuguese galleys, and more importantly, Viper has an easier time reinforcing. Lyx, on the other hand, is going to be successful transporting 2 more whales on the other island, which will give him an advantage at getting potential archer ranges up. And look at Mr.Yo. He's actually isolated a small group of Viper ships, and this is still 4 ships versus 2. And ship numbers don't scale linearly, just like archer numbers. But this is especially true for ships. Once you have a big group of ships, it's way better than you know, ships trickling in one by one or in small quantities. So 6 ships versus 3 or 4 is actually very, very dominant. Lyx using the market over here to get up to Castle Age as TaToH drops off a couple of his defensive scouts. These guys even have extra Pierce armor, so TC Fire is going to have a hard time cleaning them. And for whatever reason, Lyx never finished his walls here, which feels super awkward, and now scouts are inside his base, so Lyx's disaster will continue to happen. Just like in the previous game, he's not going to be able to wall those wheels in. It's only 3 scouts, so he won't lose that much, but he's gonna have to make up for that here big time. He will do so with crossbowmen though, and keep in mind that what Lyx has to accomplish here with his crossbows is delay Viper, because that's the real danger of Lyx and Yo's strategy. As long as Lyx is the one suffering from the landing, that doesn't matter. The key thing is having your landing player being able to influence the water player of the opponent. Because that way your teammate on water can win water very easily. It looks like TaToH's also going up to Castle Age here. Viper is gonna be the last player going up. This will hurt really badly for Viper though, because guess what? Mr.Yo does have a reasonable amount of galleys, and he's just waiting for the Botkin and War Galley upgrade to come in. He actually clicks Gill Nets before War Galley. Interesting decision, but he feels like he's got a so big lead into Castle Age that he will just be able to grab Gill Nets and then grab War Galley. That also landed with double stables, so he's gonna be able to get a couple of knights out, potentially even camels, as TaToH loops around with that transport. Lyx, he's waiting for the moment to strike Viper's base with the crossbows. Look at that, he's waiting for crossbows, waiting for Botkin, and then he's gonna need to push up with a siege workshop as well. TaToH is doing the exact same thing. Yo will spot this, however. So Yo knows exactly that there is stables coming in here to push him, and Yo will have a TC up on his key gold mine, which matters quite a bit. And most importantly, as I said, Yo already has War Galley, so this is the moment where he can actually start pushing Viper's docks here, try to take down some ships. Scout is out for TaToH, so he's gonna take down the one from Mr.Yo. And here come the crossbows. Viper is off from gold. This is exactly what Lyx and Yo base their strategies upon. Lyx being able to hit the water player of the opponent before Yo would be hit from a landing. And now, Viper is not gonna have any gold income, which means that replenishing those ships will be extremely hard, if not impossible. Now, Yo is gonna have to do quite a lot of defending here as well, and the Turks Free Light Cavalry helps here quite a bit, especially now that TaToH is going to transport those around, and this could be a disaster for Yo here. The War Galleys arrive to sink that transport, and I think that that transport is gonna go down. So TaToH won't be able to pull off this master plan. Still, Yo has to add the barracks for pikemen. He doesn't want to go monks because his opponent already has light cav, so that would be kind of worthless, because TaToH can just mix in some light cap to deal with the monks, but still, both Yo and Viper will be forced to defend here. Mangan already out for Lyx. The big problem for Viper is that he's got very, very limited gold income. He found another gold mine, and now Viper is up to 2 TCs. TaToH and Lyx just now building their second town centers in this one. Lyx not really bothering defending against this landing for the time being. Instead, he's just trying to push Viper's base faster than Yo's base is getting pushed, and I think that's actually the case. Like, Yo's base isn't really getting pushed super hard, whereas for Viper's base, he already had to evacuate one of his gold mines. Now he's gonna have to evacuate the wood line, and he's got 0 defensive forces, whereas for Yo, he's actually able to mix in a couple of pikemen. Now it's camos as well for TaToH, but the lack of pierce armor will mean that, especially on those camos, that the town center should have no problem dealing with them. Still, now it's Mr.Yo who is completely off from gold because he has to keep that TC garrisoned. So the only water player with reasonable gold income is right now Viper. Viper also with a defensive Mangano, as Lyx's forces are apparently switching focus towards TaToH. So they want to delay TaToH and try and give some breathing room to Mr.Yo. Yo is mixing in pikemen. He's just queuing them up in the barracks, and he's waiting to ump up all of them. So instead of just sending out 2 and showing his hand, he wants to wait until he has a reasonable amount. He also waits until he has a Mangano, and he will make 1 push to clean this one up. Probably when TaToH is distracted with this push, and TaToH will be distracted, forced to make 2 defensive towers over here. He also has to make an unstable back at home. He already had this, I think, from Feudal Age, but still he has to make knights on this one. TaToH gets a tower up here. The second tower might not go up, and TaToH's gonna have to evacuate the wood line. And as I said, when TaToH is distracted, Yo is going to push in, but TaToH is not that distracted, and he's still able to take down the Mangano of his opponent. Still, this is a good fight here for Mr.Yo. He's got even the +1 attack and +1 defense on those pikemen, so he will be able to take down the majority of this attacking force. Still, as things stand, it's only 10 Vorgalis for Yo, and 15 for Viper, because Yo still doesn't have a reliable gold income. He didn't send villas on this safe gold mine, which I think is a mistake here. If he garrisons these villas inside the TC, he doesn't have a good gold income. White Wolf Palace has a slight eco lead over Gamer Legion, but I feel like Viper is now in a slightly better position to contest water. 16 versus 10 Vorgalis only. No ballistics on either side just yet. Still, TaToH's got knights inside his eco and crossbows as well, and it looks like Lyx might just camp down the bottom of the tower or just let those crossbows die entirely. Now a Mangano comes in here from Lyx, and the problem now for TaToH is that he's gonna get distracted really badly, so this push will probably stall out, and that means that Yo is gonna have an untouched boom. He's now on 3 TCs. Viper is just now adding TC number 3. Look at that, right next to that siege workshop. So Lyx will know about that town center, and he will probably do everything he can to take it down. TaToH getting a university up over here, as Lyx is actually thinking about the castle drop. And I think in this case, what you would do, like, you can think about a defensive castle, like use the pikemen for Mr.Yo and drop a castle here to clean this one up. The alternative, and this might be the better solution, as Lyx makes some crazy good quick walls here to prevent the cavalry from running past, would be to drop a castle in the opponent's island, because that makes it harder for your opponent to clean up your push. And it looks like Lyx will drop a TC on the island of Gamer Legion in an effort to just make sure that this push doesn't die out. He can just make villas here, mine TaToH's gold, and just make sure that he never loses all the villas on the opponent's island. Meanwhile, Lyx is actually having a reasonable amount of knights here. Only +1 defense, no bloodlines, but he's doing a lot of damage to TaToH's eco. TaToH was heavy on stone, which makes me think that he wants to drop a castle, as now Yo sends in a ram to start taking down these buildings alongside the pikemen. Viper and Yo aren't really fighting on water, both of them are just booming, so to say. Very, very even villager count. TaToH has an eco lead compared to Lyx, but TaToH is under a lot more pressure, so he's got a huge amount of idle time. Nice move from TaToH to dive in and snipe that Mangonel, and now Viper brings in a lot of monks here, gets free conversions. This was really sloppy here from Lyx, and also Viper actually converted the highest HP knights here, so this was an excellent fight here for Gamer Legion. Still, the TC is also something that was stubbed. Lyx wasn't able to finish it, and that means that Lyx's forward wheels have all disappeared. I would assume that he's assembling the next group of units coming in. Indeed, that's the new transport. As I said, Lyx never gives up on a landing. He's like, okay, I lost my 2 wheels, I'm just gonna bring in more. And he's got 900 stone in the bank, so really, if he secures any kind of map control here against TaToH, he could even drop a castle in his face, like over here or something. Or the alternative is to castle drop Viper. Viper on the way to Imperial as the first player. Yo is gonna be behind, but not by a massive margin. The bigger problem for Yo is that his fleet isn't looking big, but neither it is for Viper. Both players only have less than 10 war galleys. No ballistics for either side either. You got careening missing for both as well. So these galleys or war galleys are not really well upgraded. They just have Botkin. And now we have Mr.Yo going into Imperial as well. And I think the big deal here is that the landing of Gamer Legion will be completely cleaned up in a matter of seconds, whereas the landing for White Wolf Palace is far from being cleaned up. There's multiple archer ranges, multiple stables here, and Lyx is already bringing in the next horde, 5 wheels this time. This is beautiful from Viper. He kept a low HP war galley here to prevent another landing and try and take down that transport, but the transport was too fast for this war galley, and even though transport might go down, the wheels are out. And if you pull 5 wheels, I think you pull them to finish that TC and then potentially drop a castle as well. Controlling these gold mines will be extremely important as well, because that's 2 gold mines that Lyx can deny. As Viper tries to get a castle up over here, crossbows are now in, and this could be a doubt castle. This could be a legitimate doubt castle here for Viper, because I'm really unsure if this goes up. I don't think this will. There is crossbows here to deny it. This might actually go up. Especially if the crossbows focus down the wheels. Nope, it's not going up. It could have been a legitimate doubt castle that goes up and all the wheels die, but that's not the case. And now Lyx will drop a castle over here after finishing the town center, because he wants to make sure that Viper never finishes this castle here. Now that's going to be tricky, because now Viper brings in monks and there is already 1 knight being converted. And it looks like Lyx deletes the other knight to prevent another conversion. Ram is going to be taken down, as Viper is up to Imperial, grabs Bracer, but no Galleon on the horizon. Yo is up as well. Yo is actually getting Iron Casting, which makes me wonder if he wants to land himself and add a couple of Condottieri, and indeed that's the case. He's going to, like, he already invested into the defense upgrades and the attack upgrades, like the first one for his pikemen, might as well go for Condottieri. Now the castle goes up for Viper, he pulls all the wheels. TaToH is at 84 wheels and he's about to go into Imperial as well, so the only player that won't go into Imp will be Lyx, which is a problem for him, because now TaToH is going to be able to trap this castle down without any problems. TaToH does see this castle going up, so I feel like TaToH could just send the Janissaries here to try and stop it. Still, the real question now is how do you stop the Condottieri, because Janissaries die to Condottieri, and Viper doesn't really have a force to defend here with. Still, Lyx is not far away from Imperial either, and honestly, he's not going to be that much behind compared to TaToH. It's going to be like, what, half a minute advantage for TaToH? But TaToH is also limited in map control, let's just say that for a time being, and now the Condottieri start flooding into Viper's base, and Viper's got 0 defensive forces. He will try to go for Organ Guns, and Organ Guns are technically supposed to counter infantry, but Condottieri are supposed to counter gunpowder units, so I think Condottieri still win that, and this is the idle time that Viper cannot afford to have, because while this is happening, the fast fires from Mr.Yo will come in. Yo actually goes for full fast fires here. He's not even upgrading to Bracer or Galleon. He just wants to go for fast fires. And while Viper is distracted, he was forced to take a pretty uneven engagement, I would say. Viper will try to take Arbalasts here, because Arbalasts are a nice way of stopping Condottieri. As indeed, Lyx is going to lose this castle. Viper's traps are out. Lyx is still massing knights though, so I would think that what Lyx wants to do is just get a couple of knights out and then take that trap down. I love how Viper built a gate in front of that trap. Still, now Viper is losing wheels really badly, and he just has zero answer to the condottieri. He's trying to get a couple of crossbows out, but as long as those don't get the Arbalest upgrade, this is gonna be very troublesome. And now Yo is bringing Bombard Cannon. Viper is still alive, but I just feel like Yo and Lyx have a completely untouched base. They will soon start setting up trade, I believe. Whereas Viper and TaToH will just forever be trying to clean their opponents up from their island. And you see that now the Knights are going to try and push the base of TaToH. TaToH bringing the Janissaries to pick off the wheels on the Stone Mine. So the forward from Lyx will eventually die out, but he can always send more. And now, as I said, the condottieri from Yo could actually start deleting Viper's eco. Even more importantly, this is the moment where Lyx could also land for his own condottieri. And the reason why that would be so good is because those would get the extra pierce armor, so dealing with Malian condottieri is actually very, very hard overall. We will see if Lyx actually does that. It looks like he's going for stables, but I think in this scenario, Malian condottieri is the best solution overall. As things stand, the biggest problem for GL is that they just don't have control over their own islands. So you see Viper is losing wheels left and right, and Yo and Lyx have a completely untouched base. Viper basically has no ships, neither does TaToH, as now the fights are only taking place on GL's islands. TaToH is trying his best to get some Hussar out, but Hussar aren't amazing against condos, and Viper is down to 69 wheels, 113 for TaToH still. There isn't really a huge amount of army either for Lyx. That's something that we have to add though. 72 wheels and only 3 military is not amazing, but he might be thinking about slinging Mr.Yo now to condottieri, and that may be sufficient, especially because Yo could add a couple of ships himself and try to go for cannon galleons to take down buildings. Look at Yo just dropping a castle in the middle of Viper's base, as he's already attacking into rams. He already has bombard cannon out. TaToH is still sort of untouched economically now, so that could give a bit of a chance for Game of Legion, and it looks like TaToH is redocking, so he's ready to go back on water if needed. And the Lyx, it looks like Lyx is just steadily increasing his eco, but his landing here will probably be dead. He tries to squeeze out Farimba for his cavalry before the castle would go down. Yo could take down that trap, and I think Yo should take down that trap. Viper also sees that, so he's going to disengage. The castle stays up until Farimba finishes, and this could be a castle that gets denied from TaToH here. TaToH is bringing in, look at that, TaToH is bringing in his wheels to repair his teammates' traps, but still, condos are just brutal when it comes to damage output. They're fast and they have 14 damage output. And now, as things stand, it looks like Genoese crossbows will be added against the Hussar. And more importantly, Viper is still not on water, but Yo will add galleons. So this is the moment where Yo is going to start adding galleons and try to push off TaToH from his remaining resources here. The castle here will most likely go up for TaToH, but Lyx is a nice position here where he can just get a trap out to this side and start trapping that castle down and just keep being annoying. Viper is at 42 eco, White Wolf Palace have a 50 eco lead, and this is what I was referring to. Everyone knows what's gonna happen, yet no one is able to stop it because Lyx is just so resilient with the landing, and Yo capitalizes so much on this advantage. Pavisa, a very, very important upgrade for both Genoese crossbows, Arbs, and condottieri. Especially condottieri, in this case, 1 extra melee and 1 extra pierce armor is very, very useful. And Pavisa is a super cheap upgrade as well, as we'll have Elite Genoese crossbow coming in here for Yo. Fast fires are out for Yo here. Only simple fire ships for TaToH right now. He's teching into heavy demos. But still, if TaToH fights on water, I don't know who is going to stop the push of Yo on land. That's the problem for Game of Legion right now. There is some Farimba camos out here for Lyx, but I don't think that he thought that there is gonna be a hole in between those ranges. So TaToH can actually dive in with the light cav and take down at least one of the traps. I think he will be successful taking down the other one as well. He will lose the majority of his light cav, but he will take down the traps, and that's what matters. Or will he take it down? Because if he takes down one castle here, I think that's value. Trade a castle 1 for 1, that's definitely good, I think, for our green player here, and the Camos now dive in trying to take down the Trebuchet. It's only Camos, so they die fairly easy to the Castle Fire, but look at Lyx taking down the Treb just before the castle goes down. That's very unlucky timing for him. Galleon now on the way for TaToH as well, so TaToH wants to get back on water with Galleon and heavy damos. And one thing I massively dislike for White Wolf Plus is that Lyx doesn't really have an amazing eco, nor they are setting up trade. Now it's Yo dropping the markets, so I would think that he grabs Silk Road as well for that. But still, I feel like Lyx should have a way higher population right now. Viper is pretty much dead. He's at 39 eco. He's got quite a lot of orbs, but those are the orbs that are just holding these Condottieri back from annihilating the remaining base of Viper. If you can even call this remaining base. Viper is actually dropping Faetorias though, so that's why he's so low population. And the Faetorias actually are nice here because it's hard to raid them. The Condottieri can just run in and kill 20 Vills if you don't have Vills and you only have Faetorias. Still, Faetorias don't substitute an efficient trade in team games. They seem nice because it's infinite resources, but the resource gathering rate on those is not amazing. And TaToH will try to dive in with the cavalry here, but Genoese Crossbows melt cavalry. So, like, this is not a fight that TaToH is going to be able to take. Look at that. Indeed, I think this is the moment where GL realizes that, look, we don't snipe that trap so that castle goes down. This means that this entire part of my base is gone. And I think TaToH also has seen that he's still up against a lot of fast fires. White Wolf Palace once again showing strong on the team islands here. Portuguese are now gone for Gamer Legion alongside Turks, and Italians and Malians are gone for White Wolf Palace. So we will go back to the home map of Gamer Legion this time, and that is going to be Forest Pond, so slower escalating map that has way less laming involved. Let's jump into game number 4 here. So, we're gonna have Forest Pond coming in here, which is the second home map of Gamer Legion. We will have Mr.Yo and WLYX on the left side as Burmese and Persians. Yo will be playing blue Persians on the north, and on the south we'll have a Burmese for WLYX in green. This kind of seems like that strategy where you have one player going for the pond, which is gonna be Mr.Yo with Persians, and one player going for a fast castle drop strategy. Other side we'll have Spanish for TaToH, which seems like it's going to serve the same purpose as Burmese does for White Wolf Palace. And we'll have Malay for Viper, which is basically the Persian equivalent here for Viper and TaToH. Now, in 2-1 in 2019, Viper and TaToH loved to play this map, and they always played Malay here. And the reason why they did that is because once you secure the water control, you can have the infinite fish traps working for you, which, by the way, are going to be an insane source of food for you here. This is something that they did in both this map and partially Cape of Storms as well with Malay in 2-1. In 2-2, we haven't seen that many of those strategies. And I think the amount of fish traps will mostly depend on Viper being able to secure water, which is gonna be a very, very tough one for him, because it's up against Persians. Viper should have a Vill advantage going into Feudal Age, because with Malay, you will probably hit Feudal Age at the same time as you do with Persians, but Malay will probably have like 2 Vills advantage over Persians. However, Persians will have a faster working docks, which means that you actually have a almost direct combat advantage on water, whereas Malay don't have any benefit from such thing, which means that Persians should have the upper hand in fighting for water. Viper, I love this house placement. This is something that we have seen from a lot of teams. Dropping the houses here means that even if your opponent lands you later on, let's say you lose water, your opponent lands you after that, that allows you to limit the amount of buildings that the opponent can potentially build in your face. So if you just leave your back open like that, You lose water and then your opponent just transports 10 vills and drops a castle in your face, you're in trouble. So houses like this helps quite a bit protecting the back of your base. Obviously, when you're building a dock, you will have the docking villager build a house anyways, but you usually should follow up with houses here, here or so. So we will have the water fighting players on the northeastern side of the map, whereas on the southern part we're gonna have the two potentially castle dropping civilizations. Everybody goes for water because it is just a too big advantage to give up, and so far it seems like everybody is just peacefully pushing deer here. Lyx actually decided to delete his woes. It's actually Yo. I'm surprised Yo deleted his woes to push in deer. Yo is definitely very very skilled and he should have absolutely no trouble pushing in deer through the gate. Usually the woes are deleted by players that don't want to mess around opening gate with sheep and then closing it. So usually you see it from weaker players. I'm actually surprised that Yo decided to delete those woes. It's not a mistake by any means, it's just a little bit surprising because I would have thought that Yo will probably have no trouble pushing it through the gate. The deer was somewhere around over here, so maybe it made more sense for him to just push it directly through here. And he will replace this with a house, so there is no problems over there. Lyx pushed the deer in through his gate, but he actually missed out on one. He's gonna have to scout who he's up against. I'm fairly certain that's why he is giving up on the final deer. He needs to know who he's up against, because neither Yo nor Lyx does know who they are up against. And this is the moment where Lyx will find out that, hey, I'm up against TaToH. Speaking of TaToH, this deer here is refusing to cooperate with him, so he's also going to struggle with the final deer, as the first to click up to feudal will be Yo. Obviously, Persian faster working dock and the faster working TC means that your resource income in Dark Age is pretty nice, so that allows you to click up the feudal age earlier, but still, Malay will reach feudal faster thanks to their faster age up, and at the end of the day, you will have a pretty considerable 30 seconds advantage for Viper into feudal, as Viper is going to drop this second dock here close to the middle of the pond, and this is the type of advantage where really this could be enough for Viper to start killing fishing ships early on. A trade cog! Did you see that? Viper accidentally queued up a trade cog. It's not like it matters, but it was so cute to look at. I was like, is he going to make a galley as he's chasing down the scout from Mr.Yo here? He knows he's got the feudal advantage, so he will try to do as much damage to the scout of Mr.Yo as possible. Yo will be able to get away here with, I think, 1 HP exactly. It's actually 2 HP because Viper was attacking up hills with the final hit. Still, at least Yo keeps his scout alive, but he won't be able to use it for much. And it looks like Lyx is changing his mind here. This is not a fast castle. Instead, looks like it is sort of a men-at-arms Tower Rush type strategy. He's pulling 4 wheels, bringing in men-at-arms. And Burmese are very, very good for that, because Burmese men-at-arms have 1 extra attack. The problem is that you don't really want to Tower Rush Spanish, because Spanish will be able to counter tower. TaToH was going for the castle drop strategy, by the way, as Viper is starting to kill the fishing geek of Yo. First fire guy is out for Yo here, as he preserves his fishing ships for a time being. He might even try repairing those if he's given a moment. Viper already bringing in fire guy number 3 and 4. But this is the thing where I think Lyx could definitely add 1 fire galley himself if he can afford it. He might be able to because he's on gold. So you could definitely help out Mr.Yo here, as Yo loses 1 fire galley. Viper micros away with the weak one. That was a very, very nice micro over there from the Viper. And it looks like we'll even have archers for Lyx. Lyx could make 1 tower, but he's not adding wheels to stone. And the idea here when tower rushing the Spanish is that, yes, the Spanish build towers faster. That's absolutely true. However, if you are not in feudal age, you can't make towers, and that's exactly what Lyx is building on. TaToH is not in feudal, and guess what? TaToH just lost his gold and stone mine, and if you are Lyx, you drop a tower here. Because a tower here would deny both gold and stone mines. Alternative is over here, which denies the stone and the berries, but wherever Lyx puts that tower, that's gonna be at a nice spot, and it looks like Lyx will go for the tower on the stone and the berries, and you can tell that TaToH is scrambling to do anything here against this one, and he's gonna be forced to make an archer range. His fast castle here would be delayed quite considerably. I love this move from Viper though, sending 1 fire galley to kill the fishing eco of Lyx. which means that neither of the WWP players will have a reasonable fishing eco, whereas TaToH has an untouched fish boom. It's 4 fishing ships, although they are taking shore fish, so they're quite inefficient, but still, at least it's untouched in comparison to Lyx, who has lost most of his fishing income. A demo comes in here for Yo, lands a nice connection overall. Right now it's a 5 versus 6 fire galley fight. 3 Persian docks versus 2 Malay docks only though, so Yo can definitely win this fight if he keeps adding ships on all 3 of his docks. In fact, he should have no trouble, but I think that Viper is trying to build on an early castle age. You look at those resources for Viper. He has just finished one of his buildings, and that's a market. He might even think about selling his stone and going up. And the reason behind selling stone could be, as the men-at-arms are breaking through the walls here and still forcing that off from the gold. So the reason behind selling the stone and going up could be that you can get to a very nice early castle age time, win water, and then just fish boom, so you don't need additional town centers. Now, it looks like he won't decide by selling his stone, but this could backfire because he underinvested into water, and that means that he's going to start losing water here. He was definitely piling up resources to go into Castle Age, but he was, as I said, underinvesting into water, and that means that he's going to fall behind in ship numbers and start losing water. This could also apply to TaToH's fishing ships, and TaToH's food eco would disappear if he loses his fishing ships. He's got no berries, no farms right now, he's just now adding 2 of them, as Lyx actually tries to go for an additional tower, just delay TaToH as much as possible. It looks like we'll have a couple of skirms coming in here for Lyx, but Lyx is nowhere close to clicking up to Castle Age. TaToH doesn't have awful resources, as the demo here will have a very inefficient hit on those fishing ships. Viper is probably going to be massing fire galleys here, as he's 1 minute away from Castle Age, and will try to capitalize on the war galley upgrade. And really, Viper's early Castle Age here could be life-saving for Gamer Legion, because as things stand, they would lose water if it wasn't for the earlier Castle Age of Viper. 27 seconds away. He won't be having a lot of ships, which could give a bit of a window for Yo to react. But Yo is still very far away. Right now he needs a market to start balancing his eco, as he's a little low on food to click up. As Lyx just keeps adding towers. It's all about that for Lyx right now. Just wants to delay TaToH as much as possible. He kinda needs to, because if TaToH gets up to Castle Age, Lyx is gonna be annihilated here with Conquistadors, and now the skirms are being pulled. Lyx might have been a little bit too ambitious here, because he was up against way more skirms than what he could handle, so he's gonna have to bail out on this tower. Viper actually massive eco balancing for a second town center, and there is the war galley upgrade. I love how Yo split up his ships to make sure the demo ship can't hit them at the same time. Viper adding dock number 3, and as I said, the core idea will be to go for fish boom. Viper tries to kind of concentrate those fire galleys here before he unpops the demo, but Yo reacts nicely, so the demo won't do much. And it looks like now TaToH is going to use the market heavily as well to go up to Castle Age. Viper trying to preserve that demo ship until he can actually get a nice connection, and it looks like that won't really be the case. Ends up getting a somewhat underwhelming one. Yo is about to click up to Castle Age, but still 2.5 minutes to wait is quite long, and this could be a big demo hit here for the Viper. Actually ends up being very underwhelming, as he only hits 1 ship with it. Still, the next wave of fire ships should be able to finish off Yo's fleet. Yo's got a lot of weak fire galleys over here. And TaToH, he's getting close to clicking up to Castle Age himself, still no access to gold. So he's having a bit of a hard time. With that also, he was able to reclaim his stone mine though, so he can be selling stone. And he can just drop a castle here to clean up this tower and then secure his gold mine. Or just drop another tower here with the Spanish builders and just take down this one from the opponent. Lyx is not giving up, but Lyx needs to start progressing towards Castle Age because he's nowhere close. Lyx is only at 38 eco, which is also not super impressive. Has quite a lot of TC idle time. He had 2 minutes TC idle time. Viper and Yo themselves have quite a lot of TC idle time. TaToH has the lowest one in the game right now. And Lyx is really trying to apply as much pressure as he can and force TaToH off from stone. Now he will try to camp down the bottom of the tower. And really, it's all about just making sure TaToH doesn't get to sufficient amount of stone. The problem is that Lyx is not building up an advantage here. He's trying to force away TaToH from stone, sure, but it's not like while he's doing it, he's going up to Castle Age or something. He's still Feudal Age, and he's still very, very far away from Castle Age, so TaToH will be up to Castle at some point, although he still won't have the stone needed to drop the castle. TaToH keeps repairing the tower, and the skirms in this many, or this high numbers, they actually do quite a lot of damage to Wheels, so it's not like you just run around with Wheels. Nice defense so far here from TaToH as Viper is securing the water, but he's up against Persian dogs, and Persian dogs are really hard to kill. Yo is going to grab War Galley, and this is the moment where Yo is going to counterattack water. The only player that's going to be still in Feudal Age is going to be Lyx. Lyx needs to find a way up to Castle Age here, because otherwise he will just get overrun by Castle Age units. I think TaToH is doing the right thing. He's adding a stable in Castle Age. Now that he's up to Castle, he can go for a Siege Workshop to hold against this one. He can go for Knights. Siege Workshop might be a better solution here, but he decides to go for a couple of Knights. Yo pops out his ships, and this is looking like a fairly even fight here until the demos from Yo come in. Viper reactions are nice here, so basically he will take the best possible engagement here. Still, it is only 4 fire ships versus 8. Yo reclaims water as things stand. Viper behind this one is on 2 TCs though. He's the only player on 2 TCs, and he's very heavy on stone. I feel like Viper might be thinking about a castle drop, because as things stand, Yo is only focusing on water. He doesn't have a single land unit, so Viper could castle drop him with melee here, as Yo is distracted fighting water. Demos trade off against each other. Viper is still at 3 docks. He has added one more over here, close to the middle of the pond. And now we're gonna have a Siege Workshop for Mangonels and Knights out for TaToH. This is where Lyx's push here will just disappear, and Lyx is still not going up to Castle Age. This is the drawback of the Yo and Lyx strategy of, you know, Lyx disrupting and then Yo snowballing the game, because if Lyx isn't able to disrupt enough, then Yo will basically have to 1v2 this one. And I just feel like Lyx is not going to be a factor for the next couple of minutes here. He could and should sell his stone, I think, to go up. He needs to start going up. It looks like Viper will change his mind. He originally sent his wheels forward to castle drop, but then he sees the barracks, and he will just say, okay, it might be too risky to castle drop the opponent, so I'm just going to drop a castle here, defend my base. He might still make a couple of Karambit warriors to secure some map control, and then keep adding a couple more wheels on stone, and then drop another castle. Yo adds 2 additional town centers as he's getting close to securing water. So I think Yo is still a little bit ahead of Viper, because Viper is on 2 TCs, sure, but 3 Persian TCs will make up for that, and melee don't really have amazing answers to the Persian unit composition. On the other side though, TaToH is definitely ahead of Lyx here. Lyx is just trying to find additional gold mines to mine with his forward wheels, and I wonder if he will drop a castle here on the forward if he gets up to Castle Age and he has enough stone for that, because it seems like he is still mining stone pretty heavily. He's making double stables, which could be knights or potentially elephants. It probably will be knights only from him. Go double stable knights, and then with that map control, if you could drop a castle here, that could be huge, because that's 2 gold mines from TaToH that you could deny. Alternative would be to push Viper and basically play a 2 versus 1 here with Mr.Yo. As Yo is just booming on 3 Persian TCs, he's soon catching up with the wheel numbers of Viper. Viper still not giving up on water, adding some additional fire ships, so right now ship numbers are even between the 2 players. Viper still keeps his crucial docks alive, which is very, very important. All of these docks are super weak, as Viper even had a tower here to help out defending against those ships. So Viper's docks are all engulfed in flames, yet all of them are still alive, and that's what matters, because he needs that production, and Yo is gonna have to group up his units a little bit more, because right now he's just trickling in units, and Viper is still at 5 fire ships, 0 for Mr.Yo. Stonewall's coming in here for Lyx, but this might be a little too late, because knights are already out, and you could start sending those knights immediately. These Stonewalls should have happened immediately when TaToH reached Castle Age, because TaToH could be sending a couple of knights to the base of Lyx immediately to try and push him while he's in feudal. Lyx might be able to finish these walls because TaToH is distracted taking down these buildings, although TaToH is almost done with those, and he will also have a defensive castle over here. Even more importantly, As things stand, Lyx is pulling the wheels and he's gonna castle drop Viper. This is a beautiful castle as well, denies the stone and denies a gold. And it will turn into a 2v1 and force TaToH to help out his teammate here, as Lyx is almost done with the walls. On the water, it looks like Yo is still trying his best to limit Viper's expansion. Viper's adding a couple of war galleys here to snap the demos. That's a nice demo hit here from Mr.Yo. Yo is going to lose his fire ship, but there will be a couple more coming out here. At this point, there is sort of a status quo on water, so no one is really securing that for himself or herself. But look at Yo's resources. Yo is actually getting closer to clicking into Imperial, and it looks like Lyx will do a bit of an overcommitment over here with the archers, picks off a will. Or did he even pick it off? I'm not sure. Lyx has to cancel this castle though, because Viper is getting a castle up here. I think that Lyx is gonna cancel that. He might be able to get it up. Yo getting close to clicking into Imperial, and Lyx might also imp here with 1 TC, because both Viper and TaToH are booming pretty heavily. If Lyx goes for a 1 TC imp, and he could afford that, we could be talking about traps for Lyx here to take this castle down, and basically the idea would be to 2v1 Viper here, and just defeat Viper, and then have TaToH 2v1 this one, or at least force him to do that. Viper lost most of his fleet here to Mr.Yo's counterattack while he was busy getting this castle up, and this will mean that Viper will lose all 3 of his docks here most likely, meaning that now the back of Viper and TaToH's base are open to Mr.Yo, making life even worse for Gamer Legion. What's worse for them is that they actually go for a much more eco-heavy approach, but still, it's only a 10 villagers lead, and both Viper++ players are imping. So is Viper though. Viper is going to imp, and he has 2 castles to produce traps at, so he definitely could have a momentum with trebuchets here, especially because he's gonna be the first player reaching Imperial, beating Yo by a couple of seconds. Viper is going to do some stone walls here to prevent knights from overrunning him, but there's already stables coming up for Mr.Yo, so I don't think that this stone wall is legitimate. Behind this one, we will have Lyx growing for stone walls as well as Viper is defending, but TaToH is going to launch a counterattack with Conquistadors on the other side. TaToH could think about petards here to get through walls very easily, or just try to bash his way through as fast as possible, and don't think that these walls are going up in time. Because, yeah, these walls are technically not something that TaToH can destroy, or TaToH can pass immediately, but it's so easy to destroy a wall with 30 HP, and the Conquistadors will deny the villagers from repairing. I feel like TaToH will break through here. And now, this could be very troublesome for Lyx because he's got 0 defense here. He doesn't even have stone to drop a defensive castle. If he dropped the defensive castle here, he would be all good. Redemption coming in for Lyx, so it very much seems like he wants to go for Redemption Monk defense here, which could make sense, as Lyx is trying to get this stone mine for himself, so that he is still able to go for a defensive castle in the future. And behind this one, as I said, he's gonna be going into Imperial, so he will even have block printing for those monks pretty fast. So he should be able to outrange those conks and siege weapons very easily. A castle being dropped here by Yo. Viper teching into Halberdier here. Yo is on the way towards Cavalier. Traps are already out for Viper. Lyx trying the predictable and trying to dive in with the knights to try and snipe the trap here. Viper with a quick gate, and Lyx actually does not commit against that. He could have destroyed that gate and then he takes down that trap. He's also trying to get a trebuchet out here, and he should be able to take the hill, as the knights are now coming in here from Mr.Yo. TaToH, on the other hand, breaks into the base of Lyx here, and I don't see a single monk right now. Illumination block printing on the way, but I think monk numbers are more important than actual upgrades. Especially illumination and block printing is something that can wait a little bit. I would have understood Sanctity. Block printing will definitely help defending here, but you already have conks in your eco, so that's a problem. Now it's going to be a trap being set up over here. I would think that the pikemen should be enough to fight this one, or there is a couple of archers that could take them down. Still, Yo is gonna need something like hand cannoneers against this one, because he's up against a huge amount of pikemen. Viper going for masonry in an effort to try and hold those castles for longer. Conquistador is doing a very nice job over here for TaToH. I don't think that Lyx got any conversions so far. Really, I feel like Lyx should have just prioritized monk numbers compared to actual upgrades here. He's getting close to a defensive castle, but he's not there just yet. Yo doing his best to burn the base of Viper from the back here, but Viper is just holding this one, and look at this. He's counter-trapping this one, saves this castle on the right side. Viper is playing out of his mind in this game. He's just playing so well. No bombard cannons are just now coming in for Yo to take down those traps. I think Viper is also thinking about bombard cannons. Viper hasn't clicked Halberdier just yet, but there is also no answer for Mr.Yo to even pikemen. So there's a chance Viper will just try to rush down that bombard cannon or traps with pikemen, but pikemen with only +2 defense versus Cavalier that have +1/+4 seems like something that Cavalier will be able to win. And look at that. Lyx is just trying to do his best to stay disruptive. Now there's a couple of monks here, but not an awful lot, and Lyx kind of stopped making monks. He will see a huge amount of conks coming into his base as this will goes out to mine some gold. 2 more monks get picked off here for 1 conversion only, and I feel like Lyx is flat out overextending with those monks here. He's not forced to run out here with those monks. His defense is just bad here, like flat out bad. Viper is about to lose 1 castle over here, and he would lose a lot of barracks as well, which delays his progress towards additional halberdiers. Imperial Age on the way as well for TaToH. Now Game of Legion has a massive eco lead because Lyx is still just at 52 wheels. He's trying to do his best to boom up, but it's going to take some time because he was 1 TC for so long. And it looks like we'll have a lead skirm coming in here for Mr.Yo to deal with the halberdiers. The win condition here for Yo is that he needs to destroy Viper before TaToH is able to arrive with help, but TaToH is already bringing in halberdiers, and I feel like at this point Yo might not be able to do enough. It's actually very tricky because the thing is that Cavalier hand cannon is a very scary composition to fight against, as we will have TaToH launching a counterattack towards Yo's base this time with the conks, trying to get a couple of Veil picks, and he will be able to do so. That's a nice distraction here as Yo tries another castle over here, sets up the traps potentially around this part of the map and tries to trap down the other castle. Lyx is trying his best to keep his forward alive here as he's trying to go for what is basically a monk rush. And he's converting a couple of halberdiers here from Viper. Hand cannoneers are increasing in numbers, but the numbers are still not impressive for Yo. The conks are also picking off quite a lot of wills here for Yo, and he didn't have the answer to them just yet. He will make a couple of elite skirms to clean them up. Lyx adding TC number 4, as Yo is losing all the hand cannoneers to the castle. This is why TaToH's counterattack was so important. Yo was distracted, he lost some very important hand cannoneers over here. Something that shouldn't have been the case, because those hand cannoneers are life and death right now for Mr.Yo. Without the hand cannons, he will have no answer to the halberdiers. Viper is still under a lot of pressure, but he still has his eco intact, whereas for Lyx, he just doesn't have eco, man. Lyx needs to start buying some food here for himself and just booming up, because he needs to start becoming a factor soon. Now Viper's eco is going to be pushed here really hard as well, so Viper is going to have a huge amount of idols as well. TaToH has an untouched boom, more or less Yo does as well. The main difference between the teams as TaToH clicks into Paladin is that, first off, Yo hasn't clicked Paladin just yet. Number 2, and that's more important, is that Viper still has more wills than Lyx does right now, although if this TC goes down and these lumberjacks go down, the will count will completely even out, and in that case I would actually favor Yo and Lyx position, because Lyx is gonna have an untouched eco whereas Viper is forced to migrate. Now TaToH's the one that has to do a lot of carrying as he dives in with the Cavalier, snipes 1 trap, and he will snipe another trap as well. Now the Cavalier will finish off the 3rd trap as well. Viper still loses 2 TCs here, but this slows down the push of White Wolf Palace for the time being. Lyx could definitely add some cavalry here if he wanted to be disruptive, but for the time being, he's just trying to boom as much as possible. TaToH is actually housed, I believe, here, because Capture Age is flashing, but he's not pop-capped just yet. Banking on the way for TaToH already. Viper's gonna have to do a massive relocation, but he's still at 95 wills, whereas Lyx is still just 66, and I just feel like Lyx is too slow building up his eco here. Too much TC idle time for Lyx. Most of his town centers are idle, And he needs to boom on 4 TCs here to have a shot at this one, because as I said, Viper's eco is still better. And if Viper just slings TaToH here, TaToH's gonna be able to go Halberdier and Paladin. And you can already tell that he's got 16 Paladins out, Yo's got 10 Cavalier on the end. Yo is 2 minutes behind with Paladin. Hoarding's on the way for Yo, so he wants to hold this castle as long as possible and play for a long game. Lyx, on the other hand, up to 71 whales. No one is actually really doing much on water. So no landings whatsoever, as TaToH will now send in the Paladins. The Paladins do have +1, +4. +4, +4 is the upgrades for Yo. So Yo's Paladins will be better, but he doesn't really have the numbers. It's only 10 on the field, and he doesn't even have the upgrade in just yet. He's grabbing Murder Holes, interestingly. He probably believes that his opponent will just try to rush that castle down with Cavalier. Now, it looks like TaToH will dive in, try to snap the Bombard Cannons, buy some more time for TaToH's base, but this is actually an expensive fight for TaToH. He takes down the Bombard Cannons, but he will lose a huge amount of his Paladins, so I'm not 100% sure if this was worth it. It looks like he will be able to save the majority of the Paladins now, so it may have been worth it, but it wasn't ideal by any means. Better late than never is the keyword for Lyx, as he grabs Horse Color at 48 minutes in-game. Commander on the way for Mr.Yo, so he wants to grab crossbows now, because those will be a lot easier to mass, as he's going for careening, so I think this is the moment where he wants to land inside TaToH's base. And if he actually grabs a landing with like 10 Paladin, he can do so much damage to TaToH's base that he can distract him very, very nicely. I think that Yo is gonna give up on this castle, and he needs to find a choke point here where he can use those hand cannoneers against the small amount of Paladins. And where did all the Paladins go for Yo? Is he actually planning to transport all of them around? He's going to lose one of his castles here, Architecture on the way as well. Just tries to keep those castles up as long as possible. TaToH already establishing a Siege Ram Halberdier push on the southern part of the map. Lyx is probably playing the same thing, but he's only at the Spearman level, and right now, TaToH is the one that's doing massive carrying, and I mean, still look at this. Viper had to relocate his entire base, still 110 wills, Lyx only at 91. If White Wolf Plus loses this game, they will lose it, because Lyx is just too slow building up his eco here. He doesn't have this much time, and you cannot always 1 versus 2 every single game. We have seen a lot of these instances in 2-pos, where Lyx is just sort of forcing Yo to play a 1 versus 2, and sometimes it works for Yo, but sometimes it doesn't, and it kind of feels like this is one of those moments where it won't. Nice move from Yo here, trying to snap down the Bombard Cannons, but he won't have the capacity to defend Lyx here, that's for sure. So, Lyx could go for Champion with Burmese, or even just his own Halberdiers will be better than the ones of the opponent here. And keep in mind that Yo and Lyx will be able to set up trade, whereas Viper and TaToH do not have this corner, which is an extremely important difference between the two teams right now. So technically, GL is on a timer, and speaking of the landing before, I did mention that there is a landing coming in here by Yo, sends in a couple of Paladins, and that's all that you need to cripple TaToH's eco, because his food eco is going to be under heavy pressure, although the Paladins aren't really focusing down wheels, they're just kind of wandering around, because Yo is too busy microing his forces, as it looks like Supremacy will be resurged by TaToH. He's grabbing Supremacy to prevent those raids from doing a lot of damage, so now those wheels have 80 HP. The attack doesn't really matter here, the HP does, because the Paladins struggle to kill them now. So, as things stand, as I said, Yo and Lyx are still holding this northern corner, and now the Halberdiers arrive for Lyx, and those Burmese Halberdiers will be clapping TaToH's Paladins. So Viper's gonna have to mix in either Arbs or Elite Skirms. Still, this is sort of an on-a-timer thing for Game Legion, as champions are also being teched into by Lyx to fight the Halberdiers on the right side, because Yo and Lyx will have some sort of trade. It's not an awful lot. In fact, Viper and TaToH have a lot more trade going for them. However, it's just a lot shorter distance. We're talking about 67 gold per trip, as opposed to 92. And TaToH and Viper have 67 with Spanish trade, so that's a lot more inefficient trade overall. Champion being teched into as well by TaToH this time. Still, Spanish champions won't actually be a good matchup versus Burmese champions. Plate mail on the way for our green player. He's still missing the final attack upgrade here, and what's more important for Lyx is that he doesn't have the numbers. He's up to 111 eco, but by the time he built up his eco numbers, his opponents are also back on track. And I feel like the momentum might be missing here for White Wolf Plus. Their army numbers are comparable to GL's army numbers, but look at the right side. 200 swordsmen now in for Lyx, but the numbers are just not there. TaToH has like 50 army here, whereas Lyx has absolutely nothing. He needs to stack these long swords inside the barracks and then unpop them when the time comes. But there's already light cav coming in here for TaToH to do some raiding damage. These stables could get a couple of knights out for Lyx to try and help out at disrupting the eco for Viper and the TaToH. 200 swordsmen are now in, but the numbers are not impressive for Lyx. It's 7 200 swordsmen. There's already 16 out here for TaToH, and even though these are Burmese units, there's just no numbers here for Lyx, and what we're seeing is that TaToH is just outplaying Lyx by a massive margin in this one. So this right side push was way better for TaToH. Also, Viper was able to rebuild his eco much easier than Lyx was able to. Like, the main problem for White Wolf Plus in this game was that Lyx was just so much behind in eco for the majority of the game. You can't always expect Yo to carry the game for you, 1 versus 2. And now TaToH is dropping a castle here. If this castle goes up, I think White Wolf Plus might die, because I just don't think that they are able to take this down, and in that case, their trade will also be very, very inefficient. Hand cannoneers are now out for Yo. Yo still is trapping down Viper's castle over here, but now Viper has elite skirms, 100 army against 60. Army numbers looking way better for GL. GL is PopCab, White Wolf Palace isn't, so the numbers are not there, and now the problem for Lyx is that he's losing buildings faster than he can replenish them, and it's the momentum that GL has. Yo is doing his best to try and get some raiding damage inside the eco of TaToH, but you can see that these paladins are barely accomplishing anything, and Viper is holding the north and TaToH is pushing the south very, very actively. Now it's champion on both sides, and Lyx is gonna bring in his rams, but you can see that you already have to get Yo to help out on this side, which is a bad sign for White Wolf Palace. Also, Yo is running out of gold, whereas for TaToH, they have 23 trade cards, and even though it's not really super long distance, it's 23 trade cards as opposed to 11 from Yo, and those 11 trade cards now are also short distance, so you see that they are bringing in 55 gold. GL's ones are bringing in about 60 something, 67. So now trade has better numbers for GL and better efficiency as well. If this corner isn't reclaimed for White Wolf Palace, a very, very slow and painful bleed will start that they will have no tools of stopping. Still, Yo is doing a beautiful job raiding TaToH's eco here, but I don't think this influences TaToH that much. He only has 32 on food, which is not ideal though. In fact, TaToH is losing quite a lot of his food wills, which means that replenishing those champion or halberdier could be troublesome, and it looks like TaToH might be abandoning this castle as the traps come out for Lyx. This may not be over yet, although now the hand cannoneers are exposed to elite skirms and arbalests. The stables here will eventually get cleaned up. GL's trade is still a lot better right now, both in terms of numbers and both in terms of efficiency. So, Viper's elite skirms are slowly taking down the hand cannoneers over here, and these hand cannoneers are just flat out mispositioned here by Yo. Halberdier elite skirm seems to work nicely here. For Viper, there is no onagers on the other side. Siege rams are being assembled here by Mr.Yo, and now it looks like the Trevs will be focusing down the castle. TaToH is going to lose that castle, so maybe there is a bit of a momentum here now for White Wolf Palace, although look at Viper, this is so good. He has secured a bit of a foothold here with a castle and immediately drops a market there. And the reason why is because he knows that every bit of gold could matter, so the longer the trade route, the better, and he feels like he's got the tools to protect this market for now and get some extra gold from that gold income. Now Paladins come in here, and this is going to be a tough one for Lyx to deal with, because he's going to be forced to chase And still, the population isn't looking amazing for White Wolf Palace. Big fight here in the middle. Light Cavalry now almost exclusively for Mr.Yo. He's definitely out of gold. Whereas for TaToH, I don't think he is. TaToH's at 27 trade cards, Yo is at 14. And one of the things that I always praise with Gamer Legion is how they are able to add the trade super early. And it really shows in this one because trade being added early means that they are able to get to better party numbers now. And TaToH's actually going for War Galley. So he actually wants to make a couple of fire ships to try and push off this transport and prevent Yo from landing inside his base once again. And it's now trade numbers. It's all about the trade numbers. 31 trade cards combined for Yo+Lyx. TaToH alone has 30. And that is going to translate into Paladin numbers. TaToH has 16 Paladins and 11 in queue. 0 in queue for Yo. Yo's basically got no gold to make Paladins with. He's got some very inefficient trade cards here that are being raided by Paladins. And now it is Gamer Legion all over the place, I think. They're contesting the trading corner of White Wolf Palace, whereas WWP isn't able to contest this corner anymore. Viper, it looks like will even have fast fires and cannon galleons from TaToH. TaToH wants to add cannon galleons probably to start destroying buildings inside Lyx's base and just inflict even more damage, because even though cannon galleon is an expensive upgrade, if White Wolf Palace isn't able to afford fighting on water, you will still kill eco and kill buildings, and that's something that your opponent will have to rebuild. Viper's hold here is absolutely outstanding, by the way, so really both Gamer Legion players are playing exceptional in this one. TaToH is doing a nice job pushing and establishing the trading eco at the same time, and Viper is having an insane hold here. And that was a very, very hard hold. He was 1 versus 2 for a long time, but he is just able to hold this one against the Hussar and crossbows. Now there is just no gold units for Yo. If Yo still had access to Paladin, I feel like he would be able to overrun Viper, but he just doesn't have Paladin because he's out of gold. Now a trap comes in here for Yo trying to take that castle down, as White Wolf Palace is trying to contest the trade. As things stand, the castle will hold the line against the Halberdiers, so the trap would survive if it wasn't for the bombard cannons of Viper. And speaking of bombard cannons, he's now contesting that castle. And here comes TaToH. He knows exactly that Yo is too busy fighting on the north and Yo doesn't have heavy cavalry, so Halberdiers and hand cannoneers will do just fine, and that's exactly what's gonna happen. Bombard cannon, siege rams, hand cannoneers out here for TaToH as well. Here come the fast fires and the cannon galleons, as Yo is going to lose his TCs and he's too busy fighting this one and microing against bombard cannons so he doesn't lose his crossbows. He is gonna be even more distracted when he loses those town centers. You can see that he wasn't able to replenish his lumber camps here. Normally you want to replace these lumber camps much earlier, but he just wasn't able to because he's focusing so much on fighting. Down south, TaToH brings in some more hand cannoneers as he's trying to secure the extra gold that Lyx wasn't able to, giving him some more gold to work with that he's going to invest into hand cannoneers now because he's up against mostly Halberdiers. Yo will try to send a couple of light cav here to the right side, but I'm not sure how long this will be able to hold because now Viper... Actually, Viper is losing that castle. Viper tried to stormwall the corner, but now GL has to be careful because those crossbows from Yo could actually start killing trade cards if they don't delete these markets, and all that trade advantage could be gone, especially for TaToH. Cannon galleons are now out. These are Spanish cannon galleons, by the way, so look at those projectiles that fly so fast. And honestly, the Spanish cannon galleons allow him to take down wheels very, very easily here as well. He even actually researched elite cannon galleons. He's got 15 range on those. Siege engineers now for Viper, for his bombard cannons. I think Viper will try to push up against this corner, but as you see, they are deleting markets and they're falling back to these markets. For now, Yo+Lyx once again pushing the southern part of the map as we enter the super late stage of the game. And look at that, Lyx is forced to make multiple docks here because they realize that cannon galleons will just destroy their bases if they don't. And this is what I was referring to. Yo is so distracted that he doesn't even have the time to rebuild a mill here. So he's gonna have to relocate a lot of his farming eco. And that's just further distraction that will allow Viper to counterattack. The score is still surprisingly close here, As the trade card numbers are getting better and better for Mr.Yo and Lyx, we're in for a very, very long game here. The efficiency of the trade, I think, is still slightly better for GL. 67 gold versus... actually, 91. Indeed. White Wolf Palace reclaims their corner, and if things stay like this, suddenly WWP has the upper hand, I would say. Now, Yo is losing a lot of farming ecos. He's gonna have to rebuild these in this corner. But now it is Lyx pushing TaToH here, and they have the more efficient trade. Now, one thing that is problematic for Yo is that if they don't contest this corner, GL will also have a corner, and then GL is gonna have the better trade, and Viper's got 5 bombard cannons with hill advantage. No matter how hard Yo is repairing, he's going to lose that castle, which is an extremely important foothold castle, as Lyx is trying to get a couple of fire ships out. Look at this! TaToH is even sending in cavalry units over here. He destroyed the palisade, and this is something that is often overlooked. This single tile passage allows units to run into the opponent's base, and now Lyx had to stonewall this one to prevent from the Hussar from running into his base. Look at Yo's farming eco, that's the problem for Yo. He has to fight here, but he's so distracted that he doesn't even have the time to rebuild his farming eco. That's why those cannon galleons are helping so much, because normally this wouldn't be that big of a deal, but when you don't have time to rebuild your farming eco or the resources for it, it suddenly becomes a huge factor. And Viper now starting to crawl up with his bombard cannons, pushing Yo away more and more. Yo is assembling a lot of paladins though. Yo wants to take one decisive fight here with a huge amount of paladins. We will see if he's capable of, because TaToH comes in with the famous and well-renowned Spanish cav archers. They are actually missing some upgrades, but they technically have Thumbring, they have Bracer and Chemistry, so they're not that bad. And Lyx doesn't really have an answer to Spanish cav archers over here. Not something that you frequently see, I have to say. So, I have to say that so far this series is very much delivering. And even though Suomi vs White Wolf Palace was an insane semifinals, it looks like if this was the semifinals, White Wolf Palace versus Gamer Legion in 2 pools, that would have been evenly competitive. It looks like we'll have Battle Elephants coming in here for Lyx with Hodak, which means that he's gonna have +5 Pierce Armor on those. Technically, Cav Archers can counter that because they can hit and run. However, you have to add that you can't always run away, as Lyx is trying to prevent those Cav Archers from breaking into the trade. One thing that those Cav Archers could do, that Elephants cannot, is just run around and kill trade, and this could be a winning move from TaToH here. Because right now, Lyx failed with these walls, the siege ram broke through, and now you have to chase 24 Cav Archers, and Cav Archers inside your trade is your worst nightmare. They're fast, they're hard to catch, and they will just camp and pick off trade cards. You will see what they do. They will camp here, pick off a couple of trade cards, then run past. They will just always avoid the opponent's army and just keep running around killing trade cards. So even though GL's trade is still way better than WWP's trade, that's just going to increase even further. Now you see that the trade cards bring back 108 gold, which is like 14 gold extra per trip. That's the Spanish trade bonus that's going to be helping Viper and TaToH there, and really cleaning these up is gonna be a nightmare. You see that they're just running around and killing all the possible trade cards. Yo and Lyx are both dropping heavily in trade card numbers now. That's a lot of paladins here for Mr.Yo, and those paladins are Persians, so they also do extra damage against Arbalest. However, that's a lot of helps from Viper, and I feel like this is a bit of a desperation here from Yo, feeling that he needs to fight this one. But this is a far from cost-efficient engagement, although he's able to take this fight here, as Viper finds a very nice choke point. The bombard cannons are still alive, and I think that this was very inefficient for Yo. He tried to access the bombard cannons, but Viper was able to just secure them, and Yo is back to only 24 paladins. That's still 24 paladins, and TaToH is finally cleaned up from the trade, but now you see that there's a massive difference in the number of trade cards for both teams. And I feel like Gamer Legion just needs to make sure they hold this corner and they will outlast their opponents in gold income. Paladins are now running around as well for TaToH. Yo and Lyx weren't able to influence the opponent's eco for the last 20 minutes or so in game. And now Yo is losing Paladins again. And Viper and TaToH know exactly what position they are in. They see the Hussar from Yo, and Hussar from Yo is a clear sign that he can't afford Paladin. Viper and TaToH know exactly that Yo is having trouble accessing gold. And that's actually the case. 27 trade cards only isn't really sufficient for a large-scale Paladin spam. So now, Archer range goes down over here for Mr.Yo, and I feel like Viper is just pushing forward more and more. Lyx actually secured the water, but look at the right side. TaToH with the Cav Archers and Siege Rams. On the north, Viper with the Arbalest and Halberdier plus Bombard Cannon composition, and if that castle goes down, I feel like Yo's just got no more foothold at all over here. He's just got buildings, but not a single castle that could slow down the army of Viper anymore. Right side, it looks like Lyx will try to get a castle up here on trade to prevent additional Cav Archers from running in. TaToH already bringing in the Siege Ram to take down the walls, and the Cav Archers will once again try to run past. I think they will once again be able to run past, and cleaning those up will be a nightmare. So now the Bombard Cannons will start focusing down the production buildings, and as things stand, Yo will just dive in with the Light Cav. Now, Viper's Bombard Cannons are slightly mispositioned. He's trying to save them with the Halberdiers, but I think he will lose at least one or two of them. Indeed, here goes the first one, and the second one will also go down. Make it even free. That was a little sloppy from Viper, losing all those Bombard Cannons. Still, he has two of them, as now TaToH actually starts going for Bombard Towers. He knows exactly that all he needs to accomplish is push the trade, and he could technically stop this castle. If this castle is stopped, and I think this castle might end up being stopped, it's only two wheels building it, especially if TaToH sends the Paladins in here and the Cav Archers, he could stop this one. It looks like he won't, which is a bit of a sloppiness because this castle is very important to hold this corner, but TaToH is already going for Bombard Towers. It's all about who is able to deny the opponent's corner, and as things stand, Yo is somewhat unable to do that, although now he's gonna get a good fight here with Paladins. These are Persian Paladins, so they melt orbs, as you see. And there is no more Halberdiers now for Viper, so Yo might be able to secure this corner in here, or at least try to contest it even more. He's got Siege Rams, and TaToH's push here stalls out a little bit. Whoever is able to deny the opponent's corner is probably going to be able to win the game, because then the other team is going to have no reasonable gold income. Both Lyx and Yo still have very underwhelming gold income from trade, so 33 and 32 trade cards right now only, as opposed to 39 and 55. But Viper will do the exact same thing that Lyx attempted to do, and he will fail just as much as Lyx did, trying to go for a Siege Workshop wall versus the Siege Workshop. One of the nice things here for Yo is that he's got these Commandant crossbows, which do not have Bracer and don't have Arbalest, but they don't cost gold. So they're actually a very, very gold efficient unit, but still, that doesn't compensate for the fact that Yo just thrown away all his Paladins against Halberdiers once again. And on the right side now, TaToH is setting up traps. Lyx is holding with Elite Skirms. I think he's trying to mix in Bombard Cannons, or it's actually going to be for the Elephants, because TaToH is adding Monks. He might even grab Inquisition to try and convert the Elephants, and I think that's already Inquisition. That has to be Inquisition, because those Monks convert super fast. The response from Lyx was Faith, so whenever an Elephant is converted, Lyx will lose it instead of turning it over to TaToH. Paladins once again from Yo will try to dive in to the eco of GL, as the map actually starts running low on food. This is one of the longest games on this map ever, to be honest. The super long and grindy game in this one, and this is only game number 4 here. It looks like Viper will be able to secure this corner with a castle. It looks like we will have Battle Elephants though for Lyx here to join the party, although once again they will just die to the Halberdiers. These Battle Elephants still die pretty easily to the Hobs, especially when there is so many orbs supporting them. Sanctity coming in here, so it looks like we'll have Monks being added as well for Lyx, not only TaToH, and now you see that these Elephants do have Faith, so they should just die instead of getting converted. It looks like Lyx cancelled Faith because they still are getting converted. Sanctity coming in right now for him. Maybe he's thinking about just converting them back, as he's going for Theocracy. Now, Paladins from Yo trying their best to run into the eco of Game of Legion. This is the first time that they are successful doing so, and they're actually very, very successful doing so. GL is down to the same trading card numbers as the opponents are. Still, Spanish trade gives them a nice gold income advantage, and the bigger deal is that I think that TaToH is very close to breaking the line here, and then completely annihilating the trade of White Wolf Palace. 1.5 hours into this game, the population lead is still on the side of Game of Legion. 38 trade cards for TaToH, 33 for Viper, 34 and 32 for Yo and Lyx respectively, and they do not seem to bother adding more trade cards in this one. TaToH taking down this castle on the south though, as Lyx runs out of stone to repair. He tried to buy some for himself, but that was a little too late, and now there is Paladins and Cav Archers here. Lyx is only at 38 army, and TaToH is at 88. TaToH is pop-capped, Lyx is like 160, 170 population. What we're seeing on the south is just TaToH outclassing Lyx here. He's got a very, very good post-team civilization, by the way, so Spanish is an excellent civ for this situation. But still, TaToH is probably playing way better than Lyx does in this game, both in terms of the current play, but also the way that he was able to react to the tower rush, and then the way that he was able to build up his eco under pressure, in comparison to Lyx, who had a very, very weak eco for the majority of the game. And now I feel like this might be the last push from Yo and Lyx, because the score lead is increasing for Game of Legion. GL is now officially in the trade, whereas White Wolf Palace is just getting further and further away from getting in here. Even if they break through these walls, I don't think they have enough units to actually kill the trade, whereas for White Wolf Palace, the Cav Archers are just camping there, and if you take a look at the trading card numbers, they start to decrease at a very, very rapid pace, and indeed, Game of Legion takes game number 4 here. What a game this was! 1 hour 32 minutes. Definitely one of the best forest spawned games ever. In this one, nicely done by Viper and TaToH. Spanish trade helping quite a lot here, but it's also about Viper and TaToH just outplayed their respective counterparts on both sides. This was close to 2 separate 1v1s, and I think Viper outplayed Yo in this game, and TaToH massively outplayed Lyx here. So if you take a look at the ecos, 51,000 gold for TaToH. Rest of the players all below 40,000 in here. And this is the part to look at. So Lyx was much faster to Imperio, but he had basically no eco. His share of overall population was very, very small. So really, he just had no eco to finish off the game when they technically had the advantage. This was the moment where Viper's base was destroyed, so this could have been the moment where they finish off Viper and start moving towards TaToH, but the problem is that Lyx wasn't able to contribute enough here because he didn't really have a great eco. Viper was able to survive and rebuild much faster than Lyx was able to expand his eco, and TaToH was just untouched for the majority of the game, and then he was able to start pushing Lyx when Lyx wasn't prepared for that. So with that, Game of Legion takes game number 4 here. Let's take a look at the remaining civilizations. Malay will be gone, and Spanish will be gone as well for GL. And White Wolf Palace will be losing Persians, and they will be losing Burmese here. With that, let's get back to game number 5 over here. We're going to the second home map of White Wolf Palace, which this time is going to be Team Acropolis. So let's take a look at Game of Legion on the north. We're going to have Viper as Yellow Indians. Right next to him is going to be TaToH as Slavs in red. A bit of a mismatched civilization combination for reasons I will explain after introducing Yo and Lyx. Yo will have Berbers here, a civilization that they love to use in the tournament. This was one of the civilizations that I think they played versus ACCM and Say My Name in the decider game of that best of 5 in the quarterfinals. And Yo was an absolute beast with camel archers. And Bulgarians will be a fairly decent cavalry civilization over here for Lyx. So why are the civilizations of Viper and TaToH mismatched? Indians are technically your archer civ playing cav archers, and Slavs will be your cavalry civ. However, in late Imperial, you probably want the Indian player to go for Imperial combos, and then what are Slavs going to do? Maybe Habadi Ronager could be something, but that's not the traditional Archer plus Cavalry lineup. It is definitely something that you can work with, and Slavs and Indians seem to be an okay civilization combination, but it's not necessarily your traditional Archer plus cavalry combo, especially if you take into account that Indians shouldn't go for cav archers here, as the Berber camel archers will be able to dominate them from a combat perspective. Now, here's Mr.Yo taking a straggler tree early on. I'm a little bit surprised about this one. This might be something surprising coming our way here from him, because he could definitely drop a lumber camp if he wanted to, and if he doesn't do that, that raises the question of why. So now he's gonna move up to 4 wheels for a lumber camp, but all the way to the outside. So the reason why he was waiting with that lumber camp is because he didn't want to drop a lumber camp here on these small patches of trees, but he needed some time until he explored the wood line to take, and he's going to be taking this wood line over there. Every other player seemed like they will just be operating with the small wood lines on the top of the hill, as we'll have free on wood, as you would expect from Lyx, who is probably going to be playing scouts while Yo goes for a fast castle approach. Whereas on the other side, Viper is going to be playing free on wood, and so will TaToH. It is technically possible that we will see a double scouts approach, although I wouldn't necessarily be a big fan of that one, because if your opponent walls himself up completely, and that's very possible, you already see Yo starting off the walls, then the scouts won't really do that much for you here. So that could be a bit of a dangerous move for Gamer Legion if they attempt to go for the aggressive scouts heavy pressure, because I don't think that would actually accomplish much. Now, Viper and TaToH both have their scouts close to the base of the opponent, and it looks like TaToH might be looking for this isolated villager here to kill, but then changes his mind and will just explore the base of Lyx. They definitely have the chance to just group up their two scouts and then try to isolate the villager and pick it off, but that's not something that has happened so far. TaToH eats a bit of a damage on that scout from the town center. Viper also on the way towards TaToH's scout, and indeed, they are probably working towards teaming up their scouts, trying to hit one of the wheels on the wood line, and that could be a great one, because these wheels don't have loom right now, so two scouts actually kill them really fast, even if there's a second wheel they're helping. This is a very, very nice one over here for Gamer Legion, and now that they will disengage, because TaToH's scout is fairly weak, first wheel kill of the game goes to Gamer Legion as they pick off a villager from Lyx, who is now forced to make loom as well. So what is GL up to now? It looks like we'll have a Feudal Age coming in here very fast. For Viper, this is partially fueled by the fact that he's Indians, that he has cheaper wheels. He's going for a 19 pop Feudal, most likely for scouts. And TaToH, it very much seems like this is going to be a 21 pop Feudal, most likely for scouts as well. So we might indeed see double scouts play here for Gamer Legion. I don't think that Viper can squeeze out archers at 19 pop, and it looks like he won't even attempt to do so, because he's not sending any wheels to gold. But here is the surprise. TaToH is sending wheels to gold, which means that we're actually going to see a Man-at-Arms opening here. 21 pop Man-at-Arms is a pretty nice timing overall. It's a little bit faster than ordinary. And considering that Lyx is still half open, those Man-at-Arms could actually do quite a lot of damage. But what is the follow-up for TaToH? That's the main question. One thing that you could consider for Slavs is just opening Man-at-Arms, as TaToH walls off this little clearing. By the way, this clearing is fully closed. It looks so cool. This is a diagonal trees here, but they actually close this place. So this wall is not needed, but I like that TaToH goes there for precautions. The walls that are needed are over here, and it looks like Lyx is looking for a wheel to kill. Let's see if Lyx finds those Men-at-Arms coming forward. So one thing that you could actually do here, as he sees the militias, I am fairly certain that he knows the Man-at-Arms. Obviously, he also needs to look at this screen to see the militias, because sometimes you don't notice the small red dots on the minimap. But I think TaToH knows that he got spotted, and he will just group up his militias first and wait for the Man-at-Arms upgrade. So As things stand, as Viper is trying to pick off another Vil here, and he might be able to do that, the Vil will have to run back to the TC, Viper trying to block the TC fire or be able to reach the Scout, which means that this Vil will not get picked off. Scout's on the way for Lyx here, as Yo also brings in his Scout. Yo is going for what appears to be a straight Camel Archer play here, as you would expect from him. So one thing that TaToH could do is sort of a Man-at-Arms opening into basically a boom into Castle Age approach. In fact, he would have grabbed Horse Color, but no double bit axe. That's a sign that he wants to go for an eco-heavy approach. He wants to grab Horse Color first. Double bit axe can wait. Horse Color is more important because you want to drop these farms with Horse Color. This is a bit of a miscommunication between Viper and TaToH here, as Viper walls off this opening, but TaToH also does that. That's going to be a bit of a wood wasted here as well. Now let's take a look at TaToH, who doesn't know about the lumberjacking operation here for Lyx, so this is not something that TaToH is aware of right now, although he could technically suspect it. We will see if he actually finds it, because if he does, then he can definitely pressure this one and force at least one villager to repair. We will have a Horse Color coming in here for Lyx first as well. If you can't afford the Double Bit Axe and Horse Color in a Scout's build, I think Horse Color actually makes more sense to pick up earlier. Because you can pick up Double Bit Axe whenever you want to, whereas for Horse Color, once you have dropped your initial farms, you will never be able to recover the lost food that comes from the fact that you haven't added Horse Color on those. So we will have, it looks like TaToH finding the lumberjacking operation of Lyx here. Lyx is a weak wall part over here. This is the part where he needs to be really careful. Lyx not reacting to this one just yet, now reacts and should be able to finish the wall. But he will have to allocate at least one Vil to repair this one. And he needs to repair it, and indeed now it is going to happen. Scouts on the way for Lyx here, but I don't think there is any opening on the walls of Gamer Legion. There is actually some openings on Viper's base on the north. He didn't really finish his walls, and that could leave their base very much open to Lyx's scouts. Viper has a spearman over here, and that should be able to scare away Lyx for the time being. Viper is also clicking up to Castle Age, though. This was a super fast Castle Age here. He only went for 9 farms, which is very low. But when you basically do not make a single scout, and Viper didn't make a single scout, he only has his starting scout left. He made a stable, so he probably wanted to go for a couple of scouts, but then he changed his mind, seeing that Lyx wasn't playing super aggressive. So Viper just goes straight into Castle Age here, which is a very nice Castle Age timing. Only a minute apart from Yo, who was fast castling, is very impressive from Viper. And for TaToH, he is going to be using Market here to buy himself up potentially as well. That's going to be a nice Castle Age time as well. And look at Lyx. Lyx is nowhere close to Castle Age, man. He is just out of resources. He invested into scouts, and this is why the scouts play on this map is not something that I love. It's sometimes the necessary evil, because you can't just go for a fast castle with Mr.Yo and Lyx not doing any army, because then you will just get forwarded and Yo's fast castle will be stopped. So you need, if your teammate is fast castling on Team Acropolis, I think you need someone to go for army, and that was Lyx. But this is going to delay his Castle Age quite considerably. He cleans up the Man-at-Arms for TaToH, but these scouts will be pretty much useless, and his Castle Age is going to be pretty delayed. We have seen this in multiple instances though from Yo and Lyx, that it doesn't matter how bad situation Lyx is in if Yo is in a good spot. And Yo seems to be in a good spot, being able to afford the second town center and also a castle over here on this hill. So the Camel Archers will start trickling in, and that's the part where Viper and TaToH will have a tough time fighting against that. We will have a second town center coming in as well for Viper. And Viper initially will have a good fight against those Camel Archers when you only have a couple of Camel Archers versus the handful of Camels that Viper is gonna have. But after that, once you have like 7, 8 Camel Archers, suddenly Gamer Legion doesn't really have a good answer to Camel Archers. They might be able to overrun them with Knights and Camels, but that's a risky call because you might just get all your units picked off. If this was Imperial Age, TaToH could just go for Hub and Siege and that could work, and TaToH's actually pretty heavy on Spearman. However, as I said, in Castle Age this is not really legitimate, so the only thing I can see Game of Legion doing is playing a very defensive gameplay and trying to make sure they don't get their wills picked off by the Camel Archers of Yo, but that's easier said than done. Last to Castle Age will be Lyx here, clicking up at 38 wills, and he's gonna grab gold mining, which means that he will most likely go for a Knight's play here, even though he's just now grabbing scale barding and forging. So I would think that it's gonna be a Knight's play. He doesn't have bloodlines right now, prioritize scale barding, as it looks like TaToH will drop 2 additional TCs on the only legitimate wood line he has. This is a very nice TC spot. This one is also a decent one because you have access to boar, and that boar can give you some nice extra food. TaToH going for Squire, so TaToH actually wants to go for an aggressive Pike and Siege play eventually. Otherwise, he wouldn't be grabbing Squires. I'm really curious what his plan is. They have to expect Camel Archers here. They have seen the games that we have seen, and Yo will go for Camel Archers. Especially if it's a fast castle play, it's guaranteed Yo plays Camel Archers. So Spearman alone won't stop that. So I wonder what Squires could be for, as Lyx picks off a wheel here. That was a very nice find here for our green player. So these scouts are still around and they're looking for targets. There is a low HP wheel here. This would be perfect pick off here for Lyx. Let's see if he finds her, and he does. That is so well done by Lyx. The second wheel being picked off by 2 scouts. And now these scouts have bloodlines and +1/+1, so cleaning them up is not as easy as it sounds like. Now the Camels of Viper will come in here and they should have no trouble dealing with these. Still, after all, 2 wheels being picked off for the value of 2 scouts is very nice. And now we'll have the Camel Archers of Lyx moving in to pick off wheels from Viper. And that is gonna be at least 2 or 3 wheels being picked off. Those Camel Archers are missing Botkin Arrow, though. That's the lucky part for Viper. He loses 3 wheels, and he also will lose at least one of those goats, but his camels have at least 1 Pierce Armor, and Viper is grabbing Scale Barding. Look at Viper cutting off the escape path for those Camel Archers. It's very nicely done for Viper, and if Yo is not investing into Botkin Arrow, those Camels will actually have a pretty decent Pierce Armor against those Camel Archers, and they should be able to chase them down as well, especially once you grab Husbandry, something that Viper actually picked up. One of the weaknesses of a fast castle build for Mr.Yo is that he doesn't have a super strong eco, so he won't be able to afford upgrades like Husbandry, not even Botkin Arrow if he wants to expand his eco. He's gonna go for a second castle just now, and now he's grabbing a stable for Husbandry, but you see that his initial Camel Archers all disappeared to Viper's Camels, so it looks like Viper's Camels play actually worked out nicely here, as TaToH is coming in with a couple of monks to pick up some relics. They are definitely preparing for a long game, and that's the game where probably Imp Camos and then Hub and Siege or Champion Siege could be something. We could see the rare instance of Družina Champions from Slavs and Bagain's Two-Handed Swordsman from the Bulgarians, and Lyx, using the advantage of Bulgarian cheaper town centers, he will be dropping a TC. That's going to be TC number 4 for him, and more importantly, Yo's castle here is gonna be stopped. He's gonna have to bring back all his Camel Archers to fight this one. Nice quick walls on the wheels, so the castle will go up, but Yo will lose 2 wheels here. Nice pick off by Viper. And as things stand, Viper is also on 4 TCs. We'll have TaToH with 4 TCs as well, meaning that we will have a fairly considerable eco lead for Game of Legion, mostly coming from the fact that Yo is only on 2 TCs. The Camel Archer play, especially if it's double Camel Archers, has to be fairly aggressive because you invest a lot into your army. Not in terms of the resources invested into the Camel Archers themselves, but instead investing villager time into mining stone to get 2 castles up. So Yo has to be pretty aggressive over here. He does have Botkin now, and he's grabbing +1 defense and ballistics. And this is the moment where he can actually start pushing Viper's eco, and he should be pushing it. Viper sitting on 1 relic right now, TaToH is also at 1. They are the only players in this game with any relics, and as things stand, TaToH's food eco is looking better and better. Viper, nice job from him, intercepting a couple of camel archers over here. The reinforcements are now cut off. And Viper is at a reasonable amount of camels. 10 camels is nice, especially if there is some monks supporting. Viper actually tries to convert the knights, but they will get picked off by the camel archers. Now Viper, once again, could isolate some reinforcements, as he's gonna have to garrison this TC. This is the part that's very, very hard for Indians to deal with. Viper has 3 pierce armor on those camels, but the camel archers still have 9 attacks, so they actually do quite a lot of damage. And as expected, Viper is gonna have a tough time cleaning these up inside the eco. Plus Lyx's knights are also in here with +1, +2. Viper starts losing vills. GL has quite a significant amount of eco lead still, so it's not the end of the world, and if Viper is able to bring in the camels from the other side, they could sandwich this army nicely here. TaToH is also bringing the pikemen, and this could be a nice move from Game of Legion. Yo is gonna have to alter the path of these camels, and TaToH could turn back and try and intercept some of those knights. That's exactly what he's thinking about. A castle comes in here for Viper, as he's trying to get some forward position to prevent those camel archers from running past and killing his eco. Game of Legion still a massive eco lead. It is almost 30 villagers ahead. Yo going for castle number 3 right now, as Viper is going to get that castle up most likely, securing this wood line as well for himself. Both White Wolf Palace players are around 80 to 83 vills, and both GL players are getting close to 100. First to click into Imperial will be TaToH, and considering that currently military-wise, Yo is in a better position compared to Lyx, so the Berber player is the most advanced militarily, and you will also have Imperial Age coming in here for Mr.Yo. The problem that Berbers face is that they struggle against siege ram, and this is the moment where the hub and siege from Slavs could be something that's very, very tough for Lyx and Yo, because they don't really have a good answer to siege rams other than the Knights of Lyx, but the Knights of Lyx will just die to hubs. Now the camel archers could be intercepting all these halberdiers here, or right now just pikemen, and this is a nice value here for Mr.Yo. Loses a couple of camel archers, but still picks off a lot of pikemen, which delays the push of TaToH quite heavily. Second to Imperial will be Mr.Yo, shortly followed by both Lyx and Viper. Lyx's forces are trying to stretch out Viper's defenses here. Viper will be chasing these down, but I think Lyx will just lose all this cavalry here. And the same could be the fate of Lyx's camel archers. And here's the deal, as Viper is chasing this camel archers from Yo, TaToH is already dropping forward siege workshops. As I said, hub and siege could be the name of the game. Viper is going to prevent the camel archers from running past and raiding his eco by adding some stone walls. Nice and early stone walls over here for him. And despite the fact that Yo has only 3 castles, he only has 18 camel archers on the field, so those numbers aren't super impressive. And it very much seems like Lyx or Yo is going to find this forward position and will take down the Vil. At least one siege workshop goes up, but this is not going to be a long-lived project here for TaToH, who's also walling off this corner. And once again, the thing I praised for Game of Legion for so long, establishing their trade early on. Look at this. They're already setting up markets, despite the fact that they are still sitting on a huge amount of gold that's left to mine. But they understand that if they establish their trade earlier, then that leaves them a little more exposed in early Imperial, but allows them to outlast their opponent in mid to late Imperial, because they will just have a much better trade going on for them. There is plate mail coming in for TaToH first, no halberdier on the horizon yet, and he will pull a couple more vills to get these siege workshops up. Kept ram almost in for him, and it looks like he's also getting some siege workshops up here on the other side. The whole concept here for TaToH is that he just wants to overrun the castles of Yo with a couple of siege rams. Viper and TaToH already setting up trade coinage on the way for Viper as well, who's getting another castle up. Bagains immediately though for Lyx, and we haven't talked about Lyx, who is actually having a better eco than Mr.Yo right now. And if Viper is only pikeman or halberdier, as this is a great fight. This is a great fight for Viper actually. You could say, hey, it's a choke point, and the camel archers will just destroy the camels. Yes, but Viper doesn't have to chase, and it's easier to replenish the camels than it is to replenish the camel archers, and now the halberdiers will close the distance, and the halberdiers eat these camel archers for breakfast, even though they get taken down quite rapidly. This is still better for Viper because there is more value in this army here for Lyx or Yo than it is for Viper. It's easier for Viper to replenish his own army and take a fight here instead of chasing those camel archers. Now here comes the push here, and Siege Ram is almost in. Bagging Swordsman is on the way for Lyx, but Lyx is suffering from the same thing as in the previous game. He just doesn't have the numbers right now, and if he's not sending in Swordsman to help Yo here, Yo will start losing castles. Kasba is in for Yo's castle, so they will actually produce camel archers really fast now, but as I said, if he has zero tools of stopping those siege rams, he will just lose his production, and that's exactly what's gonna happen. Viper already has heavy camos in here as well, and he will just send in the heavy camos to deal with the swordsmen. Now, these heavy camos struggle really badly against these swordsmen, because they still have 8 melee armor, so the camos do, like, basically 3 damage on them. And look at Yo, he knows exactly how important that castle is. He pulls his entire eco. Yo's got 33 vills repairing here, and his teammate also has some vills repairing. And honestly, this castle stays up. Now the swordsmen arrive, and TaToH's push dies out here. And suddenly you have no answer to the bagging swordsmen other than Boyar. Now, how do Boyar do against swordsmen? I don't think they do well enough. Because their melee armor is still... like, they will be capped at 8 melee armor. I think Elite Boyar with full upgrades can do this. What a set, man. I mean... Elite Boyar is not something that you would see on a very frequent basis, and here comes a big counterattack on the other side though. And when Imp Camels hit, suddenly those Camel Archers will struggle, and Imp Camels and Siege Rams should be able to start knocking on the walls of Yo there. Lyx, on the other hand, is pushing TaToH. TaToH's gonna need some Boyars, but I mean, he needs castles for that, and he is losing the only existing castle that he has. Another castle comes in, he's grabbing plate barding, and also chemistry for himself. He's definitely having trouble with the bagging swordsman here. Lyx is doing a very nice job pushing, and he also cleans up the middle. But there is Siege Rams pushing the other side, and I did mention that Berbers struggle really badly against Siege Ram. So they just have absolutely zero tools of stopping them. Well, they do have Cavalier, but in late Imperial, when you want to go for Camel Archers, Berbers struggle against Siege Ram really badly. So now the Camos here will be taking a fight. Not necessarily an ideal fight here for Viper and TaToH, because there is enough swordsmen here, and honestly the swordsmen might save the day once again, and this push could die out. Many of those rams are still alive, but I think that this is something that Yo and Lyx might be able to hold. Yo is actually going to lose this castle, I believe, if he doesn't repair. Oh, the castle stays up at 200 HP. This is extremely important, because this castle is so important for Camel Archer production. Keep in mind, as I said, that Gamer Legion is slightly weaker in early game because they actually focused heavily on setting up trade. They already have 20 trade cards versus Yo and Lyx are just now setting up trade. And indeed, there is Boyars, as Viper will now switch into Cav Archers. The problem with the Cav Archers is that they will die to the Camel Archers. So the only way that this works out is that if the Cav Archers are being used against these swordsmen, and we will have Boyar and Heavy Scorpion here for our red player. But once again, this castle is under pressure from 3 traps. TaToH diving in to snap those traps, and there is no defense for them. This could be a good move from TaToH. This could be a very good move. Almost a life-saving one, because it takes down 1 trap, and if it takes down another one, that castle isn't going down. And indeed, Viper and TaToH hold this side, while Yo is stonewalling the left side, so they want to focus the fights close to TaToH's base. Yo is up to 60 elite Camel Archers. He also has a couple of scouts, which is a bit of a weird situation. Not sure why he has scouts here, but what's more important is that Viper is sending in his Imp Camos into the eco of Lyx, and Lyx is losing eco really fast here. These Imp Camos also have attack bonus against buildings, so Lyx is down to 106 vills, and his eco is about to collapse. This raid from Viper is doing insane work, and this might be enough for Gamer Legion to edge this one out. Viper has a crazy eco, 155 vills. He's also tacking into Heavy Cav Archer to deal with the swordsman here, as we will have Onager for Lyx. Lyx still has 94 villas, so it's not impossible for him to reboom, and I think Yo will clean up these camels, but Lyx actually has a very, very weak eco right now, and that's something that is going to take some time until he rebuilds it. 92 eco is not really super high. TaToH actually has crazy eco numbers, 165 vills, and going for full Scorpions, we saw TaToH in Deathmatch World Cup over the weekend, so he now is very confident playing with those blobs of Scorpions, especially when the opponent doesn't have Bombard Cannons on the field. Boyar and those Scorpion blobs is... how do they even stop this? Like, they need Bombard Cannons for that, but that's not even remotely close from being here. Camel Archer is now diving in to try and snipe trade, something that Yo and WLYX tried in the previous set as well. GL still has way better trade right now, and Viper will just track these down with Cav Archers, although Camel Archers are still technically countering Cav Archers. You will see that these Cav Archers just die through Camel Archers so easily, but eventually these will get cleaned up, and now it looks like Yo will try to knock on these walls with a ram. Halberdiers from TaToH trying to chase this one down as much as possible. We will have hoardings for Yo, so he knows exactly that he needs to keep those castles alive, as Lyx loses his forward castle here. TaToH pushing up with more and more Scorpions, and TaToH starts to push the right side here. And that many Scorpions will just annihilate those Camel Archers and the Swordsman at the same time. Lyx is back over 100 vills, and his army is also pretty convincing, but he still needs to add a little bit more eco here, especially trade-wise. Lyx is only at 5 trade cards. Yo is also very, very low on trade card numbers. He's at 19 as opposed to 23 and 14. TaToH's trade card numbers aren't impressive either, but Viper is actually having a very, very nice time with those. And this could be a big fight here. I don't think that Yo and WLYX want to take this one, because that's a lot of Scorpions. They do have Siege Engineers as well. And it looks like TaToH's also stacking into Onagers himself. You gotta be careful, because just a couple of light calves are going to be able to destroy those Scorpions very easily. And I see chain barding coming in for Yo, so it's very possible light cav is on the mind of Yo, but it looks like GL might try to sandwich this army in between them and come with the camels from this side and the Scorpions from the other. TaToH will also add hoardings to his castles, so in case he ever needs Boyars, those castles will be sturdy and they won't go down super easily, so he will be able to produce Boyars if he wants to. Fortified wall on the way for TaToH. We already have fortified wall coming in on the left side, as it looks like Viper will just start adding Hussar here as he's running short on gold. TaToH with the traps being able to take down the siege workshops, and he's also mixing in some Hussar himself, so he's able to take down the Onagers from the opponent. Champions from WLYX moving into the base of Viper though, and this could be a big one for White Wolf Palace, because as things stand, the Camel Archers from Mr.Yo will just annihilate the eco of Viper. This is gonna be a nightmare to clean up, and while this push is scary from TaToH as they take down the Onagers from our green player WLYX, how do you even clean up 37 elite Camel Archers inside your eco? They can just run around and kill farmers, kill trade. You can tell that Viper even stopped his trade to prevent that one from being killed. But now there's more Camel Archers coming in. TaToH starts shelling this castle though, and I think TaToH is beating WLYX here on the right side, but also Yo is beating Viper on the left, or is he beating him? This could be the moment of truth. That's quite a lot of imp camels here. If they go down, suddenly things get rough for Viper, but if they actually are still around in reasonable numbers, especially if Viper brings in a couple of skirmishers to deal with this one, then this might be enough for Mr.Yo to finish off Viper's eco. Now Viper restarts the trade. I think this is enough for Viper to clean this one up, and if that's a cleanup, then suddenly Game Legion has a massive lead, because Yo is going to be running out of those Camel Archers. He's at 41, and he's about to lose a huge amount of them to the Hussar here. They will slowly get grinded down by Hussar and Camels, and more importantly, WLYX has absolutely no tools of stopping TaToH's push here. The siege rams are knocking through the walls, the castle already went down here for WLYX, and you just don't have anything that can kill 22 heavy Scorpions here from slabs. Once again, Yo is doing his best to dive in and snipe trade as much as possible. So as things stand, trade card numbers are fairly even, still a little bit better for Game Legion, and those Camel Archers are still being super, super annoying here. So Yo is really doing an excellent job just being disruptive with those camel archers. The question is if it's gonna be enough to compensate for the fact that Lyx is losing the right side. Lyx now adding onagers, and suddenly he has an answer to those scorpions over here. We also have a random cap ram from Yo knocking on those ranges, shouldn't accomplish much. Still 41 camel archers for Yo, as he takes this little corner, tries to take a couple more scouts, or well, in this case Hussar and Wills with him. Will count now better for White Wolf Palace. Their trade is still slightly weaker though. Still, resource retention advantage should be on the side of Mr.Yo, because those camel archers are just able to retain value so nicely. As I'm saying, that Yo runs into the blob of Hussar, and that was far from ideal for him. TaToH apparently is able to get through the right side with Rams and a couple of Wills, but this will be cleaned up as well. And I wouldn't be surprised to see TaToH trying to onager cut here in this one. Siege onagers are in for Lyx already, and camel archers are also out for Yo here. Left side is still pretty peaceful, as Yo is even taking the berries here. Soon, lack of resources will be a problem, as the wood lines are starting to dry up, and this is where you have to start adding trade, because whoever is going to have the better trade will have way better resource income. This series is absolutely featuring a lot of these long and grindy games, so an absolute beauty of a set so far, I have to say, and this is only game number 5 in a best of 7. So Hussar are now in for Mr.Yo to get some more raiding inside the base of TaToH and Viper. Trade is still better for Game of Legion, and I just feel like I have seen this in the previous game as well, and I just see it here as well. I feel like White Wolf Palace is not really doing a great job at establishing trade. They're just a little too slow with that. Nice onager cut idea here from Lyx, and this will allow the camel archers to run in, but this might actually backfire here, because that's a huge amount of camel archers, half of the total amount. You have 46 camel archers and 20 of them are here, and I feel like they are just gonna die to overwhelming amounts of units. TaToH trying to quick wall these in, but he will fail to do so. Yo reacts just in time. Keep in mind that while Viper and TaToH are chasing this one, there is onagers, halberdiers, rams coming their way, and there is also a couple of Hussar raiding the eco of Game Legion. GL still has a way better trade despite all the pressure on it, which I think tells a lot about how resilient they are setting it up and how underwhelming White Wolf Palace is investing into their trade. So as things stand, TaToH still has these crucial castles up which control this part of the map, as the camel archers will take a victorious engagement here in the middle, and they're just running around right now, forcing Viper and TaToH to chase Elite Boyar on the way for TaToH. So he will actually play full Boyar and Heavy Scorpion, which is a tough composition to stop, that's for sure. Left side is still super peaceful, just a random ram from TaToH trying to knock through the walls. Now it's 2 of them though, so TaToH and Viper want to open up the front line here on the left side once again, as they're just trying their best to chase down these remaining camel archers with a never-ending flood of Hussar. At this point, you just need to run around with those and kill units, but obviously it's hard to do when there is so many things to focus on. But speaking of things to focus on, TaToH's going to lose a couple of his Scorpions to Onagers. Now he also grabbed the Siege Onager, and the Scorpions will prevent those Halberdiers from poking down those Onagers. Left side, Hussar from Yo are going to clean up the Rams, and Yo is back to 42 Camel Archers. Trade is now actually better for White Wolf Palace, so they take over in that perspective, score dead even right now. But the army numbers are actually favoring Game of Legion. White Wolf Palace is just a little too low on army, and that is why their population is so low. And it looks like Yo will actually start teching into Heavy Camel. The cheap Berber Camels could help quite a bit dealing with the Hussar, because Viper is mostly Hussar. He's got a couple of Imp Camels, but the major problem for Yo is just the overwhelming amounts of Hussar that just flood his Camel Archers, and now Viper once again tries to go for a sandwich maneuver here and surround those Camel Archers. Will not be successful, and this is a very nice choke point for those Camel Archers to take down the Imp Camels from. This is a good fight here for Mr.Yo. he's gonna be able to clean up the majority of the camels, and the hussars don't do much against those camel archers, so you see that Yo still has 26 camel archers here, which is like close to the original amount, whereas Viper is about to lose this entire army. Siege Rams now knocking on the doors of TaToH's castle here. The boyars will take it down. There is no trap support here for Lyx, and more important, look at the left side. Hussar raid coming in here as a distraction, as Yo is up to 80 army. But more importantly, there's more camel archers and onagers coming in, and heavy camels. These heavy camels will be a fairly cost-efficient way to deal with the camels of the Viper, and you still have this big blob of camel archers that might just run straight into the trade of Gamer Legion while Viper is distracted on the left side, because Viper is obviously distracted even though he takes a great fight against the remaining camel archers here. It looks like TaToH is going to Onager Katsu the middle though, sending in all the Hussar. Yo will react with his camel archers. Onager is trying to take down the camel archers here, and Yo's gotta be careful with that Hussars from TaToH. It's a lot of Hussar actually, and this will once again push Lyx's eco back into a very deep pit. Yo is gonna do his best to clean this one up, but I think Lyx is gonna lose a lot of eco here. And Lyx is the only player that's not pop capped pretty much here. So Viper is at 190-ish, TaToH is 180. Right now Yo is at like 170, 180. And Lyx is only 160. So that is why Viper+ is behind in overall population. And that matters quite a lot because they're consistently behind in army numbers, which just means that they're unable to finish off the game here. The Onager here is gonna get picked off by the Hussar as well, and I feel like GL is gaining momentum despite this massive cleanup from the heavy camos of Mr.Yo. Trade numbers are still slightly better for White Wolf Palace, but this raid actually allows Viper and TaToH to gain some momentum on the right side, and now Viper mixes in some bombard cannons on the right side as well to take down the siege workshops. Viper tries to run past the castles of Mr.Yo here in an effort to try and get into the trade. I don't think that he will be able to accomplish much here. Most of his units will go down to the castle fire and the remaining ones will go down to the camels. So we could still be in here for a long game, but I think that now the next wave could be hard for Lyx to deal with. TaToH is at 78 military, Lyx is only at 50, and many of those units will just absolutely be annihilated here by the Onagers. And it's very possible that now TaToH will start focusing on chopping down these trees. Even if it's not for opening up the passage for his light cav or hussar, it's probably more about starting to control resources and chopping down wood lines. As I said, TaToH just played Deathmatch World Cup on the weekend, so he understands the importance of wood control. In fact, he has had some crazy good sets in that one. I would think that it is completely legitimate for him to chop down all those trees, because that way Lyx could start running out of wood. You also have a couple of cav archers from Viper denying this wood line as TaToH secures a forward castle over here. On the left side, Yo dives in for the bombard cannons, but now that Yo is going for a heavy camo based strategy, Viper goes for cav archers and he takes most of those down. Now the camel archers join the party, but honestly, Imp Camel and Cav Archer might do this one, as Viper actually gets some nice bombard cannon hits on top of those Camel Archers. On the south, TaToH brings in the Onagers, and I feel like you just need one bad move and your entire army is gone against that many Onagers. So that's actually very hard for Yo and Lyx to fight. And speaking of hard to fight, now Viper is pushing forward with Imp Camels and Cav Archers, and also the bombard cannons. The bombard cannons matter quite a lot here, as Yo will try to dive in, snipe 1, 2, 3, 4. Very nicely done over here. Loses a couple of camel archers, but this was the necessary evil, so to say. He had to take that one. Still, TaToH is going to run in with a huge amount of Hussar and Boyars over here, as Hussars will be coming in here for Lyx. Still, I think the big difference maker is the army numbers of TaToH compared to the army numbers of Lyx. It's steady 80 eco or 80 army versus 40. But speaking of eco, TaToH just lost all his trade. TaToH is down to 17 trade cards because of these camel archers moving in. Those camel archers might be life-saving here for White Wolf Palace because they were on the back foot. But suddenly TaToH's eco is in a very rough spot, especially gold income-wise. Like, he's mostly going for Hussar, but still, Viper dives in here to deal with a couple of trade cards, but overall he didn't do that much of a damage and he's gonna get cleaned up. And replenishing those Cav Archers will be expensive. And if you just look at the overall trade card numbers now, it's 100 for White Wolf Palace, only 70-ish for Viper and TaToH. It's not over yet, obviously, as TaToH's gonna take down 2 traps over here without Yo being able to react. But if this continues as a tendency, Viper and TaToH will have problems with their eco, especially their trade. So gold income is gonna be a significant concern. Still, at this point, I think TaToH can keep adding Hussar and just keep raiding the opponent's eco, and they're starting to notice that Lyx is struggling for wood control, because if you take a look at the remaining wood lines, this one intact is in the hands of Viper, so is this one. This one is in TaToH's hands, so is this one. This one is something that Lyx can control, but Viper already has been pushing it with Cav Archers to deny it, and this one is drying up. There is very limited wood remaining. This one is still available for Yo, but we're getting close to the domain where wood is going to be a luxury resource, as Viper sends in a huge amount of Camel Archers, then decides to return home upon seeing the Halberdiers. So TaToH getting his eco back on track, he's back to 19 trade cards. But as things stand, he still has 92 army, Lyx only 52. GL has 20 military lead right now, and this is a strong force here for TaToH. Hussar, Boyar, Scorpions, Onagers. This is actually pretty tough to beat. It's also worth noting that TaToH has the power of Slavic farming, which is a massive advantage right now, because even though he has only 33 on food, that is still a reasonable amount of food income. However, now, Viper is in a bit of a trouble because he's only camels, and Halberdiers and Camel Archers will absolutely annihilate Viper's eco, and despite the fact that TaToH is pushing on the right side, TaToH still has to get through multiple castles. He's in the trade, but he's slowly losing his numbers. White Wolf Palace will lose some trade cards here, but their trade numbers are still fairly promising, and I feel like this push here might be much bigger than what Game of Legion is applying on the right side. Those Camel Archers need to go to a trade though. If they're able to kill Viper's trade, like remove 30 trade cards from this one, this might be enough for White Wolf Palace to secure the game. Because Viper is already sacrificing very expensive gold units to fight this aggression, although he's got the hill. But I think this might be enough for Yo to fight this. Yo sends in most of his Camel Archers here. This is 40 out of the 50 that he has. This is basically all his army in here. But he's gonna take down most of the camels for Viper. And if you are a Yo, you just want to dispatch a couple of Camel Archers to start harassing the eco. So constantly retreat to the eco and just start killing it. Because if you're just fighting here, Viper will grind down your numbers. And speaking of numbers being ground down, that's an Onager, and that Onager could destroy the entire army of Yo here. Yo is not paying attention and Yo is losing everything. Yo is down to 10 Camel Archers. This could be a game-losing move here for White Wolf Palace. They had the tools to kill so much trade from GL. Obviously, Yo was focusing elsewhere, maybe this fight on the right side. But now, Yo is down to 28 Camel Archers. TaToH is back to 26 trade cards, and he still has a huge force over here. This is what Lyx has been waiting for, though. A huge flood of Conics coming in. Beautiful Onager shot as well from Lyx, destroying most of the Scorpions. And this is the moment where I think that Lyx will overrun TaToH's army, and I struggle to see TaToH being able to rebuild this army over here, because it's a very, very expensive army, especially in terms of siege weapons. The castle is still standing here for Lyx, and as I said, this is basically a cleanup. Had Yo not lost all his Camel Archers, this would be an excellent scenario now for them. After him losing it, it's a little bit harder, but it's still very much open for White Wolf Palace, because they have a way better trade, and that starts to matter in a situation where the players are definitely starting to run out of wood. You can tell that Viper is actually keeping a bombard cannon here to kill the wheels of Lyx that are trying to go for that wood line. Soon the players will start buying wood, and you can tell that Yo once again wants to run into a trade. And look at this. Fortified walls in the middle, and siege workshop walls for TaToH to prevent that. This castle might actually go down though, and that would open up the possibility for the Camel Archers to run past over here. Viper, however, coming in on the left side, blasting through the gates of the opponent with bombard cannons, and now he's got an untouched rush into the trade of the opponent. Yo is trying his best to rush up the walls here, but there is still a huge amount of holes, and I think there will be just one hole. Indeed, the tile I was selecting for the whole time is going to be open, and now Viper can do the exact same thing that Yo should have done with the Camel Archers, and that is just focus down the trade cards. That's all that matters. And now that TaToH is back to 35 trade cards, if Yo and Lyx lose a lot of trade cards here, that might be the final nail in the coffin, especially with Viper's Camels diving in and sniping that trap. Yo is back to 41 Camel Archers here, but once again the horde of Boyars, Halberdiers and Siege Onagers starts flooding on the right side by TaToH, and Yo and Lyx are losing way too much trade. Look at that. Yo is losing all his trade, and this is exactly what Yo should have done with those Camel Archers. But he didn't, and Viper did. Yo is down to 41 trade cards. It doesn't matter how many Cav Archers you lose if you kill 20 trade cards. And that's exactly what Viper had to do. Now Yo and Lyx are the ones that are behind quite a bit in trade, and Gamer Legion will start increasing their score. They already have a 60% map control, but now that they have better trade, there is very little chances here for White Wolf Palace, unless they're able to get into Viper and TaToH's trade and do similar damage than what they have suffered from. It's still Swordsman with Baggins and Conics here from Yo and Lyx, as we have another 1.5 hour long game. But as I said, you gotta get into the trade of Gamer Legion here. That's your only hope. I just don't know where, because the middle is walled off, and you could push in on the right side, but TaToH is here, so you can't just run past. The left side is also stonewalled, and look at this. Viper is in with stonewalling behind this wood line because he knows that an Onager cut is imminent. And indeed, here come the Camels and the Camel Archers. This is exactly what Yo and Lyx needs, but they need to group their armies. It's just heavy Camels, and the Cav Archers will do quite decently against the heavy Camels here. I feel like, now that the Onager has to focus down those Imp Camels, Yo needs to group his entire army up here and go. If he goes in here, that could be enough, because Lyx is still holding the right side quite nicely with the Conics and the Champions, or Swordsmen in this case. But wait a second. Wait a second. Did Yo not commit and now it's closed? I think there is still a hole here. Yeah, there is a hole. Yo is just not committing for whatever reason, and I don't actually get why. Like, Yo is attacking that gate. What is Yo doing? What is Yo doing, man? Maybe he doesn't want to overcommit, I would understand that, but he needs to do something here. Trade card numbers are way better for Gamer Legion, and as I said, White Wolf Pass is on a timer. Yo is down to 90 eco. He's probably microing his units here on the right side as well, but he needs to do something with his army. Like, actually go into a trade of Gamer Legion, otherwise they will be starved out of resources, because right now the gold income is way better for Gamer Legion, and as Wood starts... Transports. Oh my goodness, what a set this is! Transport ships for Yo. He's getting careening, and he will try to transport units through the pond here. In two pools, we have seen cannon galleons on this pond. Now we might see transports. This is a nice find here for Yo as well. He actually sneaks past TaToH's defenses, and if he gets into the trade here, that could be huge. TaToH, big ground attack, taking down a significant portion of those Camel Archers. Another big ground attack. These are vital shots here for TaToH, but Yo is doing the right thing now. Just running past and killing as many trade cards as possible. So that's exactly what he needs to do. It looks like TaToH will actually assemble a force here as well with Onagers on the left side. Now it's Dry Dock on the way, and multiple transports alongside Galleon Fast Fire. I don't understand why Yo is actually grabbing those upgrades. Galleon, especially Fast Fire, doesn't make a lot of sense. Galleon could, but Fast Fire doesn't, and there is no opening right now on the right side, but these walls are fairly weak, and Viper is bringing in heavy Camels, or Imp Camels in this case, and Cav Archers, something Bulgarians have zero answers to, and there's a big hole here, so if they run into the trade of White Wolf Palace, that could be the final nail in the coffin. Still better trade for GL as the Camel Archers got cleaned up, and I feel like these transports are just a little too late for Yo. He's gonna have to dispatch all his camel archers to defend Lyx here, as the onagers will just try to cut through here, and if those cav archers get into a trade, it's gonna be a nightmare cleaning them up. Yo is doing his best to catch up. He still has a huge amount of heavy camos, but these transports are not doing anything right now. And it seems like Lyx will just try to meet these with the remaining conics and halberdiers he has. Now it's onagers as well. Onagers from TaToH though, and this is very, very micro-heavy here for Yo. One bad move and all his army is gone, and that's... If he loses this army, that's the game. Onager now comes out. Big onager shot from both sides. The onager is still alive, and it actually takes a shot on TaToH's onagers. The TC does go down, and so is the onager from Lyx. Another one is on the way. TaToH crawling up with the onagers still. The conics dive in, and they will snipe the onagers, allowing the camel archers of Yo to take this fight here. Cannon Galleon even in the middle, coming in as Viper starts knocking on the left side with a couple of rams, and bombard cannons are also coming in here from our yellow player. And this is not walled. This is not walled by Yo, it's wide open, so Viper can just run in. All the horde in the right side, and now Viper will just run past, because they did an onager cut, but they never actually bothered walling that one back in. There is enough heavy camos to deal with this one. In fact, that's a huge amount of heavy camos. We're talking about 67. Now galleons are coming in here, and I just don't understand the transport concept. Maybe he wanted to transport, but they don't have the option anymore because they have to defend. But still, GL has way better trade, and I like how GL is adding more trade cards. Look at this. GL understands that the map is running out of resources. The map is actually running out of resources. And with that, it's going to be awfully hard for anyone who doesn't have a sufficient trade to access any resources, because once the map is out of wood, it's all about the trade numbers. Whoever has more trade is going to have more gold income, will be able to purchase more wood. Also, the other thing is that now you actually start buying wood. And look at this. Viper has a bank of 8,000 wood, Yo and Lyx have 0. And that wood is extremely important to replenish farms, because without that, you just have your farming eco die. Viper and TaToH are at 1 relic each as well. Those are relics that they picked up early in the game, and they still have them. Yo and Lyx haven't picked up their relics at all. And these are small differences, but they actually start to matter, as Yo is down to 67 eco, only 30 trade cards. I feel like this might be a super long game here, where Game Legion will just outlast his opponents, because they will have trade. A mistake from TaToH only grabbing crop rotation just now. That's something that should have been here for a while, but at least he knows that he didn't grab it. And Yo, now he's gonna go with the transport. This is a now or never for White Wolf Palace. They will jump into the transport, and the whole idea is that you want to grab as many trade cards as you can with those camel archers. If they kill like 50-60 trade cards, there is a hope for White Wolf Palace. If not, then this game is gone for them. And it is looking really grim right now for them, as the transports are getting ready. They are both full, and they will move through the middle. Bombard cannons now trying to knock down those walls. And Viper and TaToH are getting very close to breaching the trade of White Wolf Palace. Yo is at 150 pop, 170 as well for Lyx. Yo will still have a reasonable amount of camos here with camel archers, and here comes the group of camel archers. 31 camel archers to save the day, basically. If they take down the trade here, then that's going to give a very nice advantage for Yo and Lyx, although they still don't have a good wood bank, as it looks like Yo is committing to this fight. They want to destroy the siege, because TaToH is chopping down the wood intentionally, I believe, and a big onager shot from TaToH. That big onager shot might be the game here, because I don't think that Yo has enough to hold here, and indeed TaToH is intentionally chopping down wood lines. He played Deathmatch World Cup, and in Deathmatch that's fairly standard in super long games, and while the camel archers are doing some damage to the trade of Game Legion, they're slowly getting cleaned up by the castle fire, and I don't think that this is gonna be sufficient. At best, they will be able to even out the trade card numbers, but GL actually has quite a lot of trade cards in queue, and now you have a champion being teched into by TaToH, as they are cleaning up Lyx's food eco, And this is not a push that White Wolf Palace will be able to stop, even though they will do their best to do so. Beautiful micro by Yo to take down the onagers. Still, most of these camel archers are now cleaned up, and we are looking at 340 population against 270. And if you look at the overall trade cart numbers, Yo was able to even it out. That's the best he could do. But from this point on, Yo and Lyx basically have limited resource income. Yo is at 100 population. Gamer Legion is gonna edge this game out. And I have to say that this is one of the best sets in 2v2 I've seen for a long time. Imagine if this was the semifinals of 2 because this could have been the case had Suomi not beaten Gamer Legion. Now, needless to say, Suomi versus White Wolf Palace was an insanely good semifinals as well. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend checking it out. It was an insanely good best of 7. But this one is also delivering as a set. So, who knows, maybe in the future, if we have another 2 polls, these two teams will meet and we will see an equally intense series in a tournament setting, not a show match setting. Still, this is a $1,000 show match, so far, the sponsor of this event is definitely getting value for his money, I can tell you this much, because this is some super entertaining games. Especially the last 2 games have been super intense, both going into post-Imperial scenarios, as TaToH is crawling up with another castle here. Yo is still trying to squeeze out some more camel archers, and really, Yo is making miracles happen here, but I feel like it is now 100 population discrepancy, and now that we are in a so late post-Imperial situation, capture is also gonna have a lot more lags, but I feel like the GG is getting closer and closer, because now you can tell that TaToH's got crazy gold income. He's able to just flood Boyar, and he will just be running into the eco of the opponent from time to time. The Boyar are actually better here than the Cavalier for TaToH, so look at that, he's got so many Boyar queued up, and look at the resource bank as well. For Viper and TaToH, they both have 5,000 plus food, 2,000 food for Viper, 1k for TaToH, whereas especially Lyx's resource bank is very small. Yo and Lyx tap out, and Gamer Legion take game number 5 over here as well. 1 game away from winning this set, and really, this series is just delivering so much. It's one of the most entertaining 2v2 sets I've seen in a while. 3 hours into this set, and we only had 5 games. Let's take a look at the civilizations that are gone. Indians for Viper and Slavs for TaToH are gone. And on the other side, we will have Bulgarians and Berbers gone. And the next map is the home map of White Wolf Palace, I believe, which is going to be Kawasan. So let's jump into the game, and welcome to Kawasan. We're going to have a TaToH as Red Byzantines on the right side. We'll have a Viper as Japanese in the north in yellow. Neither of these are amazing cavalry civs, so I wonder what the unit composition will be for Viper and TaToH. If they play super aggressive, then it's very possible to have like a Japanese Knights play alongside Byzantine crossbow support, or maybe even an early Imperial Age with Arbalests and then Bombard Cannons. Other side, it's going to be the Relic Civ combo, Aztecs for Lyx in green, and Lithuanians for Yo in blue. I definitely feel like GL has to play this one very aggressive, because if Yo is able to pick up the relics in the middle, he will just snowball the games with the cavalry. And also, because the Aztec relic bonus is a team bonus, if Yo picks up those relics, Yo is also gonna have a very good gold income from that. As it is frequent with Lithuanians, Yo is going for the early lumber camp, so he can drop that dock super early. You will see a dock villager coming in pretty soon for Yo, probably for this dock. Other side, for a Viper, he's also gonna be able to afford the slightly earlier dock because he's Japanese, so the lumber camp is a little cheaper. Whereas for TaToH, he will just go for the standard dock timing in this one. He's Byzantine, so I would assume he's going to drop a dock in this pond, because he probably wants to do water fighting. Byzantine fire galleys are much stronger than the standard fire galleys, so it would make sense for TaToH to use them and just fight on water with them. So, Taking a look at the bases, Yo's got a fairly open front, but not impossible to defend. In fact, the easiest way to do this is to wall here, to be honest. And then, it's ugly. This is a very, very ugly base layout, because you have to wall so much to protect this gold mine. But you also do not want to wall all the way around here, so it makes more sense to wall like this, and then maybe here and here, but it's very possible that Yo won't be fully walled for quite a while. For Lyx, the front of his base is also very much open as he's got a front gold. On the other hand, TaToH's base is looking pretty decent. In fact, it's a very easily wallable base. Ideal walls are here, because that would protect the back of this wood line as well, just as this much. And probably wall here, and then just wall... you could even wall to this water, and then wall here. Alternative would be all the way across here. Both of them are possible, but TaToH should have no trouble securing a little corner for himself. It looks like Lyx is coming forward with a scout to take a kill on the Vil. TaToH sees that, so TaToH's gonna grab Loom first and then start the dock. This dock is still going to be delayed by a couple of seconds, but the delay is not that big, and TaToH will just probably wall that Vil in to prevent the Eagle from finishing it. Indeed, now this is gonna be no issues, and TaToH will have that dock up. Lyx is going for the same pond as well. His dock is like 20 seconds faster because it wasn't delayed at all. Lyx also grabbed Loom to make sure he doesn't lose that Vil, as Viper goes for a safe pond over here, and Yo also goes for a safe pond. So there's only one pond on map that goes uncontested, and that's the one between Viper and Mr.Yo. So we will have walls up here for Yo, and indeed he's probably planning to do walls like I suggested, going for walls here, probably here, and then here as well. So what's the plan here for TaToH? Is he just gonna go for a galley rush? He's 5 on wood, so it kinda seems like it. On the other hand, the Viper is also 5 on wood. And it looks like TaToH's scout is coming in to help Viper's scout pick off a Vil. Look at the pings on the minimap. Viper is telling his teammate, hey, there is a Vil here to kill. TaToH is telling him, hey, my scout is here. And it looks like they will give up on that. Probably Viper told TaToH that you are too far away and these walls will be up by the time you arrive. And he's probably right about that. So, walls are going to be up for Yo here. This is the most important part. This is gonna be hard to wall off. Like, my heart just says wall here and wall here, but protecting those will be quite hard because they're so far away. But they are the most cost-efficient walls. Everything else is a much greater investment overall for Mr.Yo. First to click up to Feudal will be Yo. No surprise, with Lithuanians you start with extra food, plus you drop your dock earlier, so your early food eco is very nice. Shortly followed by Viper's Japanese here, as Yo runs into the TC fire of Viper. Viper tries to trap that scout and he does so. So Yo is going to lose a lot more HP than he initially wanted, down to 9 HP with that scout. We will have TaToH coming in with quite a big walls. It looks like they won't do team walls, although they could. Like, Viper could just wall here, and TaToH could just wall here, and they would have team walls. It looks like they would just go for the individual walls here. But this could definitely be something that they can team wall, and it would be a lot more cost efficient. So, one thing to add though is that Lyx is going super late into Feudal. What is this even? This doesn't really have enough food on it to be a fast castle build, or it's at least very ambitious. But he's 2 on gold. It's a barracks, but it's a very, very late Feudal Age. It's 26 eco up. TaToH is up already, and I feel like Lyx will just lose this pawn so easily. I have no idea what Lyx is up to. He's going for a barracks. Makes me wonder if he wants to do something like men-at-arms or straight archers, but this is still a super, super late build for that. Because as things stand, TaToH's gonna have the easiest job ever cleaning up the fishing eco of the opponent, and that means TaToH's gonna have an untouched fishing eco. TaToH will actually go for sure though, and he drops a second dock. I think he believes that Lyx will fight him on water, but reality is that he won't, and it also looks like Viper sneaks a villager forward, and he will drop a dock on the pond of Mr.Yo. Mr.Yo going for a dock on the northern pond. Viper also trying to dock this one, but Yo opens the galley, and this should not be going up. The galley indeed finds the Vil. Viper's dock here will be denied. There is no way he gets this up, or Is there one? Viper is gonna have to spam right-click on this one. Oh, look at Viper. Look at Viper with the micro, but there's the scout coming in. Nope, this is not coming in, although Viper could take this fight. Viper needs to pull another villain that should be able to finish that dock. Still, Lyx is about to lose his fishing eco with little effort, and it really seems like Lyx is fast castling, and I'm actually surprised how good his resources are looking now. It looks like he had a lot of villagers that were on hunt, and those just dropped off the food, but this is actually a pretty nice fast castle here. The question is, fast castle into what? It could be eagles, and it looks like it's gonna be eagles, and one thing that it would achieve is that you could actually take all relics, and then later on you can give that to Mr.Yo if you want to, but you might even just play 5 relics yourself with Aztecs, and just use the eco advantage that you get from relics. Viper bringing in the fire galleys here to take a fight against Yo's eco. Yo might be adding a second dock here as a defense, but this definitely caught Viper by surprise, and as I said, Viper will just bring in another Will, and he will get this dock up. A Spearman also joining the fun and will be taken down immediately, and it looks like Lyx will even end up selling some of his stone to do this. Viper's forward Will apparently will get caught by Lyx, so Viper's gonna have to quick wall this around. TaToH will win the southern pond, which means he's got an untouched fishing eco compared to Lyx, and that's the drawback of a fast castle play here with Aztecs. As Yo sent his scout over here to oversee Viper's Will, but Viper's Will is already out, and Viper wants a second dock on this pond, although I don't even think it's necessary, to be honest. A second dock is up as well here for Viper, so as things stand, Gamer Legion is just playing for water control, and it looks like they will just start stonewalling themselves to prevent the eagles from overrunning them. Still, it's a dangerous play, because if they give up land control, Lyx could secure the relics, and then that could be transferred to Mr.Yo, who would have +7 paladins from that, or even +8. TaToH loses the will here, trying to stonewall up the side, as Lyx is... oh, Lyx, this is huge. This is huge for Lyx. Oh, that's a so big mistake. The exact same way Viper and TaToH won a game on Forest Pond versus Suomi. I think it was Vilas at that time that didn't wall it off. And now, Lyx thinks that his back is secure, but TaToH is going to sneak. And TaToH was the player sneaking in that game as well. Since this wall is not up yet, the Mangonel push here, and it seems like it's going to be a Monk and Mangonel push, could be pretty devastating against TaToH over here. Yo will lose his fishing eco on both of the ponds. The only players with untouched fishing eco are the GL players, and you see Castle Age is coming in for both. This is why I said that fast castle is not something I like on this map, because if you fast castle, your opponent will have better fishing eco. If your opponent has better fishing eco, as TaToH is going to lose another will here and the monks will just be able to run past, if your opponent has better fishing eco, they will just catch up in Castle Age timing because their resource income is way better, and indeed, Lyx is up with 29 villas to Castle Age, and that is definitely the fastest time, but TaToH is not super far away. Still, the Aztec Monk Rush is something that's very, very hard to deal with, and Viper just now clicks up into Castle Age. Yo is still in Feudal, he's gonna be the last player to catch up, and he might even lose a will here. So, here comes the Monks alongside the Mangonels. Obviously, Lyx doesn't have a great eco, so he won't be able to support a huge push here. But I would think that even grabbing Redemption could be something that's extremely important. TaToH's gonna go for a guard tower defense. He learned from the Rock Slide game, and he knows exactly that Mangonels won't crack it because Aztec Monks will just convert them with Redemption. So he's gonna go for guard towers, grabbing Fletching. There is a defensive watchtower, and that University is already going up so he can grab the guard tower upgrade. The problem is that he's still far from dropping a second guard tower, and his opponent is already inside his base here. Plus, it looks like Lyx was able to convert the Fire Galley, and that allows him to start contesting this pond. Viper secures the northern pond. The left-hand side pond is something that's in the hands of Yo. Yo is the last player to look up to Castle Age here, but he should be able to protect that pond. Guard tower upgrade on the way for TaToH over here as he grabs one on his gold mine, but he won't grab more because he is off from stone. And I would feel like as... oh boy, that's the disaster for Lyx. We can actually rewind this because I totally forgot about the TaToH sneak, but I just looked at Lyx's Will count, and Lyx was also probably super busy because look at this. I love how TaToH was patient and he was waiting until he has a couple of units out here, and he's going to kill so many Wills from Lyx. Lyx was at 30, that's already a weak eco, but when you go down to 24, that's an even bigger disaster. Lyx's only wood income is now gone, thanks to just 2 knights, and this could have been avoided if he actually checks if there's a hole here. All he needed to do is just right-click his Will on the outside and the villager finds the hole, but that wasn't the case, and he's going to pay for it very, very badly here. Going for scale mail, he probably wants to bring in a couple of spearmen to defend, but I feel like while Lyx is doing some damage to TaToH, TaToH is not actively losing eco. So TaToH still has fishing eco working for him. TaToH has reasonable wood income. Gold income is not super reliable, but he's still okay. Whereas for Lyx, Lyx has got no eco, man. Look at this. Lyx is at 23 eco, and this is the moment when Lyx realizes what's happening. You could clearly tell that this was his first reaction. He's just now realizing that he lost everything. He's down to 20 Wills, and he's gonna have 0 Wills on gold. And it looks like Yo is going to try and secure the middle here with the Knights, and then try to pick up relics. Viper is also going for relics himself, he's going for his own Knights. I think Japanese Pikeman is also something you can consider, but for now Viper is just gonna play with his own Knights. He's got +1 attack, so he knows exactly that he doesn't need... as he's bringing in 2 light cav. Look at Viper. He's bringing in 2 light cav, potentially to pick off the monks here from his opponent and help his teammate. He picks off the forward Will, and he's now trying to focus down the mangonel. That's so good teamwork from Viper. He's just playing so well in this one. Sends in 1 light cav to try and pick off the mangonel. The other light cav will try to pick off the only monk here. And once the monks are gone, TaToH can clean this up with knights. TaToH even going for a forward TC on the wood line of Lyx, as Lyx cleans up this aggression, but Lyx is at 21 Wills. Yo and Viper are still head-to-head, but look at Viper. He actually quick walls a monk in here, because this way the knights of the opponent can't actually kill that monk. And he will just use this monk to convert these Wills and prevent those Wills from adding additional buildings. And look at Viper, what is this, man? What is this even? And now the Wills are exposed here. Viper is playing out of his mind, and TaToH sneak also working really well. Viper is back, boys. Viper is back. He may have had some rough moments recently, but this is a very good gameplay from him. Lyx actually is able to get a fish to the fishing eco of Viper here with the dock, but this pond is almost out of fish, so this is no longer a big deal for Viper. He's going to lose some fishing eco, but for Viper it matters more that he's able to contest the middle. He's got +1 and bloodlines on those knights, +1 and bloodlines for Yo. As here come the monks for Lyx. Conversions coming in. This is actually better for White Wolf Palace. Viper's monks are going down, so are the ones for Lyx. Lyx actually manages to grab 1 conversion as Viper tries to finish off that stable with the ram. The ram goes down, and as things stand, I think Yo is gonna be able to edge out a victory here. Still, TaToH is massively ahead compared to Lyx, and Lyx is just dying. Like, Lyx is trying his best to try to get some conversions in, but TaToH can just mix in a couple of scouts to deal with the monks, and those monks, they don't even have sanctity on them, so they die pretty easily. And it very much seems like Lyx will start picking up relics here, although this is something that Yo should be doing. Viper, on the other hand, look at this. He's using the fire galleys to burn down these walls and run straight into the eco of Yo. This is a big gamble because this allows Yo and Lyx to pick up the relics. However, this also allows Viper to push directly into the base of Yo and potentially pick off 5, 6, 7, 8 Wills without Yo having any answer to that, and that's exactly what Viper is doing. I love how he's squeezing in his knights in between the Wills and the town center, and by the time Yo reacts, that's -5 Wills. Exactly the Will advantage that Yo had over Viper. That's quite a lot of Spearmen, and Viper doesn't want to take this fight. Viper doesn't want to take this fight, right? He decides to do it before the Pikeman upgrade would come in for Yo, and he actually wins that fight, but I wonder if that was something that was efficient after all. We will have a second TC up here for Lyx, and look at this. Guard Tower plus Mangonel push from TaToH. The idea here is that the Guard Towers will be able to take down the Monks, and even if with Redemption, they won't be able to convert the Mangonels if Guard Towers are protecting them. TaToH's eco is at 73, Lyx is at 31. So GL has a massive eco lead right now, and like Yo will try to pick up the relics as fast as possible. He's on 4 actually. So Yo now has the Super Omega Knights, but only 6 of them are on the field. These will be beastly, they already have 10 plus 5, and Viper apparently could lose another knight to conversion. So that was a little sloppy from the snake here. But I think that this is going to be the typical instance of Yo being forced to play 1 versus 2. The thing is that Byzantines can go for heavy camels or halberdiers against the cavalry. The main problem for them will be that they actually will struggle against 4 Relics Lithuanians. 4 Relics Lithuanians just generally feel so strong. Now Yo dives in with the knights, tries to snap the Mangonel, and he will be successful at doing so. Viper actually brings in some more monks, and it looks like he will just try to get a couple of conversions here on the opponent's knights. One way to sort of get rid of those Lithuanian knights with all that extra attack is to convert them. He also has a couple of monks here, and he grabs a conversion. Viper tries to convert this back, and he will be successful doing so, actually. Now, Viper tries to grab 2 more conversions. One actually happens, and the second one also happens. Viper now diving in on the monks, and the monks do go down before the conversions. This is great for Viper, because suddenly the knight numbers might not be here for Yo. He's gonna be able to clean up those knights on the north, but this will still result in 2 of 3 villagers being picked off here by Viper. Viper now has a firm eco lead over Mr.Yo, and more importantly, while Mr.Yo is distracted, Lyx has no help from him, and Lyx is just forced to defend against this Mangonel aggression, about to lose a town center as TaToH is teching into light cav with scale barding, so he wants to run past that TC and just go for the monks. Another TC comes in here for Lyx. He is still at 34 eco, so G has a massive eco lead. And the first player to Imperial will be Viper. It looks like he will switch to Arbs, although I feel like in this situation switching to Halberdiers with Japanese would make sense, because he's up against mostly cavalry. And even though he probably knows he's gonna be the first player to Imperial, I feel like Halberdiers would do a lot more than Arbalasts. Like, Arbalasts are still somewhat exposed to knights that will have a +5 attack. It looks like fletching is just now coming in for Viper. He's gonna have a reasonable amount of Arbs by the time he reaches Imperial. And his primary target will most likely be this monastery. In fact, if you're Viper, you're already mining stone, and indeed he does. And he will probably drop a castle somewhere around over here to deny those relics. TaToH is also very heavy on stone, so TaToH can technically drop a forward castle as well. And now the camels and the light cav come in here. They pick off 1 monk from Lyx. But more importantly, Lyx's entire eco is idle now. Viper clicks crossbowman just now as the monks are trying to pick off the knights. 1 knight actually gets converted, and this could result in at least 1 Mangonel being lost. TaToH brings in the wheels to repair though, and he will be successful repairing. Lyx has nothing. Lyx actually has nothing here. He's got 1 monk inside that TC, another monk is about to die, and Lyx is about to die completely. And the problem for Mr.Yo is that even though he's got the Omega Knights, and I feel like Viper would be way better off going for Halberdier, it looks like White Wolf Palace will call this, because probably Lyx told Yo that, look, I'm dead. And I think that in this case, indeed, Gamer Legion was winning this, because even if Yo gets to Cavalier with all those relics, he's up against Byzantines that can go cheap hubs, he's up against Japanese that he can go for very good hubs, and Yo won't have the population space to field something like Paladin and Skirmisher. So the fact that he's gonna have to 1v2 this on this map makes it very unlikely to happen. And with that, Gamer Legion A wins this show match. it was a very, very back and forth set until the fourth game. The fourth game ended up being super close, and Game of Legion ended up winning that, and then they closed out another super close game in game number 5, ending the set with a little bit more one-sided game number 6, which could have been a completely different game had Lyx seen this hole over here. Because this was the most important part. If this was walled off, TaToH wouldn't have been able to sneak here, and Lyx would still be Monk-rushing TaToH. But those knights showing up at Lyx's eco were clutch, and a big mistake from Lyx not actually looking for that hole there, because that's something that you always gotta check. You can clearly tell where Lyx started losing everything. It's basically this part of the game, where his population just started to drop really badly. And at the end of the day, he killed 24 units, lost 62, and only got 6 conversions, which is somewhat underwhelming when your only combat unit is a monk. TaToH has had a very, very good game over here, and Viper also played really well in this one. Strongest eco by far for Game of Legion. And with that, GL wins this $1,000 show match. Once again, this was a 2v2 show match with 2 post settings. I'm fairly certain that the sponsor, a Chinese guy, was inspired by the fact that GLA versus White Wolf Palace never happened in 2 pos, as GLA was eliminated by Suomi. But it was cool to see this matchup over here, and you can tell that this would have been a crazy semi-final as well. We had some very, very good games overall, and GLA wins this $1,000 show match, and who knows, maybe in the future, if there is ever a 2 pos free, we might see these two teams fighting against each other once again. With that, I'm gonna sign off for this set. Thank you so much for watching, because you are currently watching this on YouTube. This is not something that was live streamed. This is YouTube exclusive content. And yeah, make sure to check out my schedule that I have a link to in the description in case you want to catch my live streams on Twitch. And the better sets I cast on live are something that also come to YouTube. So if you are more of a YouTube person, then no worries. The best sets that I'm casting are all coming to YouTube as well. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.